I'm going to kick it off. Probably ought to have our theme up, though. That'd be good. Hold on a second there. All right, here we go. It starts in 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Core on its new night and time. Well, same time, but new night. Thursdays. Yeah, that's right. We moved from Wednesdays to Thursdays, so if you're catching us live or you try to on most weeks, you're going to want to be here on Thursday evening at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. And if you do that, you'll get a live show. If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe some of you are just listening to this on your headphones going, I like it the way I likes it. And, well, now you're getting it a day later, okay? So now you know. You understand the rules. Let's move forward, not backwards. I'm Scott Johnson. I'm here with Bo Schwartz and John Jagger. Bo is back. Bo, welcome back. It's been a couple of weeks. How are you?
Yeah, it's been a while. I realized I haven't gone 2 weeks without doing one of these shows in a long time. It feels weird.
It is weird, but having you back
I'm doing shitty, but better. It's good.
Yeah.
We can do a show.
Yeah, that's good. When I heard you were going to be around tonight, I got slightly sweaty palmed. And that's because I'm apparently weird and I shouldn't sweat over my friends being on a podcast. I don't know what that was about, but I got sweaty palms.
I don't know. I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah, they're a little moist now.
Yeah. I mean, you slap some on some of your art and mail it to me
There you go.
So I get your sweat and your art.
Oh, that's right. You'll give them a little. Possibly some of my DNA will be on these signed prints I'm sending to you guys.
Those look awesome, by the way.
Yeah, they turned out nice.
I
got these sets of 8x8s, and they printed so good. They look perfect. So there's the one where it's like a collage of all of the TWBD people, and then there's one of you by yourself, John by himself, my character, and then of course Kristen and Kyle all separate. And my wife's like, we should do one of those frames that's like, a big wide one with like matte, framing all inside of it behind glass, and then just have all of them in a row and just start with like the montage. So we might do that.
Awesome.
We'll see.
That'd be
I was thinking
great.
the same thing, something like that.
Yeah.
Like definitely needs to be framed.
Yeah. Otherwise, but you know what? Go ahead and just pin them on the wall if you want. It's fine too. People want to do that. Though, if you're wondering what those are and you're a fan of TWBD, they're actually in the store, and you can grab your own set if you want, or one individually, or whatever, over at frogpants.com/store.
I didn't think about people buying them individually.
Yeah,
like
you can
now
totally
we
do
have
that.
a popularity contest going. This is great.
I can find out. I will know sometime here when I look at the data. I can say, oh, looks like Stanley's the real vote getter here. I could totally.
No, it's gonna be Varel, or maybe just Bo the DM. We're gonna have all the DMs out there that are gonna enshrine him upon their screen.
Yeah.
I figure it'd be Hope. Everyone wants a cute pinup girl.
Yeah. You never know. I mean, girls with
A,
guns.
a chain gun on their arm and
Yeah.
murderous artifacts pinned to them.
I've seen Jackie Brown. People like gun shooting ladies in bikinis. Not that she's doing that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to talk about video games because that's what we do. That's what Core is all about. And we start with this. So, big week with Cyberpunk for a lot of people. Cyberpunk famously came out finally, and Cyberpunk also now famously came out kind of busted in lots of ways for a lot of people, depending on kind of where you played it. This is old news by now, but if you were playing this game on a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One, the two platforms it was originally announced for, you had a very bad experience, and likely up to this point are still having a relatively bad experience. I've heard some people say it isn't that bad. It's frame rate hitches here and there, but it's okay. Blah, blah, blah. And they're playing it post launch day patch and a couple of other hot fixes and stuff. So it's not all dire like it was maybe in those first few days, but a lot has come and gone since then. For example, we know a lot more about what the developer knew and when they knew it. In particular, they had said, look, we know that some of you are not happy with their purchase, especially on these last generation consoles. Apply for refunds, and we're happy to facilitate that. Let's get you refunded if you want to do that. And
They said you can get a refund.
Yeah.
Please use the method by which you would normally get a refund. And then it turns out that PlayStation was like, no, we're not giving you refunds. And they were like, okay, don't get a refund on PlayStation. Maybe just wait.
Yeah.
Like it's a mess. And yeah. I feel like we should read their statement just so we know where we're working from.
Sure.
because they went on to Twitter and they posted something kind of as an initial apology for this, because if you've gone online and you've looked for PS4 footage or Xbox One footage of the game, the original base content, you are probably pretty surprised by how that game looks. It is shockingly bad.
Yeah, it's abysmal.
It
really bad.
it looks good for a PS2 game.
Yeah.
It's that bad at times.
Yeah.
And so what they said was, first of all, we would like to start by apologizing to you for not showing the game on base last-gen consoles before it premiered, and in consequence, not allowing you to make a more informed decision about your purchase. We should have paid more attention to making it play better on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Second, we will fix bugs and crashes and improve the overall experience. The first round of updates has just been released, and the next one is coming within the next 7 days. Expect more as we update frequently whenever new improvements are ready. After the holidays, we'll continue working. We'll release 2 large patches, starting with patch number 1 in January. This will be followed by patch number 2 in February. Together, these should fix the most prominent problems gamers are facing on last-gen consoles. We will be informing you about the contents of each patch ahead of their release. They won't make the game on last gen look like it's running on a high-spec PC or next-gen console, but it will look closer to the experience than it is now. Finally, we would always like everyone who buys our games to be satisfied with their purchase. We would appreciate it if you would give us a chance, but if you're not pleased with the game on the console and you don't want to wait for updates, you can opt to refund your copy. For copies purchased digitally, please use the refund system of PSN or Xbox respectively. For boxed versions, please first try to get a refund at the store where you bought it. Should that not be possible, you can contact us, blah, 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 blah. P.S. PC gamers will also be getting regular updates on improving the game. So that was kind of the initial statement. And that was not greatly received, because one of the people who signed off on that saying like, wow, yeah, we're shocked at how bad this looks, 2 weeks ago was quoted going to news sites saying, yeah, it looks surprisingly well. It works surprisingly well on the PS4 and Xbox One. Mm-hmm. It has then come out further, because, man, this story has just been going all week, that the reason that they did not show it, the reason it's been bad, and the reason that they were unclear is because they were working on it literally up to the day that it released, and therefore they did not know how it was going to look.
Okay, but also they had pressed discs for the game for those 2 consoles, and they were in circulation, in some cases erroneously, like some review copies or early copies of that quote-unquote gold disc, finished disc, were leaked. People were playing them. They showed up on some streams. There's video of this thing, and they were really broken. Like, were more broken than the broken that we saw on launch day for those consoles. And now there's just all sorts of chatter about, all right, the game's not done. Like, or at the very least, the game's not done enough to sell this to people who are putting $60 down, old console or not, right? Putting that money down with this expectation, because it's always been, this game will be on the following platforms. And it was only as time went on that they said, oh, and it'll also be on these new consoles. And initially, they're only backwards compatibility copies anyway. So it's not even like, these aren't next-gen versions that people on PS5 and Xbox Series S and X are playing. They're playing the Xbox version, and it just runs better on a console, or on that console, than it does the old ones. So I totally understand. I'm somebody who kind of tempers this sort of like gamer outrage, where their hype doesn't exactly jive with reality, or, expectations weren't met, and whatever. That happens with video games. Things get patched all the time. Like, that's the world we live in. Giant, big open world games, they're especially susceptible to this. So all of that, I normally have a pretty even keel on this, but I'm like legit annoyed by this one, because as it's starting to come out, they knew how bad it was. They say they didn't know quite how bad it was, but I am telling you, it's not like they don't have PlayStation 4s and PS4s to test with, and it's not like Sony and Microsoft don't have some level of rigorous certification processes. They do, and sometimes they allow for a little bit of, wiggle room in there about day one patches and things like that. But for the most part, That is all designed to say, this isn't done yet. This can't come out on our hardware. It doesn't live up to the standards that we want. And $60 is a lot of money to pay for a broken ass freaking janky piece of junk. And that's what this is. It just straight up is. So it's easy to say, you shouldn't be on a PlayStation 4 anymore anyway. You shouldn't be on an Xbox One anymore anyway. You should upgrade or get a PC. That's not the answer. The answer should be, if this was never going to work on those consoles and work well enough to legitimize the cost of $60, then you shouldn't have made it available for those consoles. Straight up, across the board. That should have been one of your big yellow page announcements.
Or at least been more transparent about the state of it. That's the thing. It's one thing to release a bad looking game, that doesn't run right. It's another thing to, file threats of lawsuits for people that were posting gameplay footage from the console versions early and not give reviewers access to those versions, or put NDAs that said they weren't allowed to talk about it and they would need to record their own gameplay footage and stuff like that, which is all stuff that they did. Mm-hmm. They actively tried to hide it, which is a problem. And for anybody because when I complained about this online, I had people strangely deciding to jump up and defend the game that's about corporations taking advantage of people. Go figure, irony. But let me just say this. You can love a game and you can even have a good experience and still think, boy, that thing they did over here sucks. It's possible to feel both those feelings. You can go, man, the thing they did is awful, but I still really like their stuff. Guess what? We as human beings do that all the time. Disney is not the greatest company known to mankind, but we're all there Friday morning watching the latest episode of The Mandalorian thinking it's spectacular. Yeah. It's very possible to say, hey, I don't appreciate what you're doing, but I also like the content you're putting out. It's fine. Guess what? Amen. You can like a Chick-fil-A sandwich and still not be okay with their politics. Right. This is literally what the show The Good Place was about. So
amen.
Just keep in mind.
I like Bo's got this like religious fervor about all these amens. It's like,
it's just he's preaching, man. He's singing the gospel, and I agree. So amen is what you say.
I agree.
And I don't know what else. It'll be fun because I'll be the a-hole in this conversation.
No, go ahead. Actually, that's the one thing we haven't heard in the last couple of weeks is your take on any of it, the game itself or any of this process or whatever. So
need to remind everyone that I pre-ordered Duke Nukem Forever. Okay, paid $80. You got no one to blame but your effing selves, guys. Yeah. Buying things sight unseen. The industry cannot help itself. It wants your money. It does all this crap. Wait till it launches. Check out a streamer stream and go, hey, maybe I won't buy that. It looks like crap. That's sorry. And I know the hype was real and you want to support the company. Don't buy it after they show you the product and you're happy with what you're going to get. Because I thought Duke Nukem Forever, how could they mess up a classic? They're certainly going to take the Duke Nukem franchise and make it awesome. I don't need to see a single stitch of footage. This game will be incredible. Nope, they got my $80, and at the time there's no refund policies. That's it. You're playing. You burnt yourself, buddy. You got no one to blame but yourself, and you're new to buying games in the industry. Welcome. Now that you've learned your lesson, there's an opportunity to learn to do better in the future. Yeah. I agree. It's definitely bad that CDPR did this. At the same time, I want them to make the most cutting-edge, awesome game possible. So if it runs like jank on it, I don't want them to feel the need to sacrifice the quality of the greater-end product to run on your toasters. That's the end.
See, so this is where I struggle a little bit because I've seen games like Last of Us Part 2 and Days Gone and Ghost of Tsushima. These games are beautiful on a PlayStation 4. Games like Gears 5 and others are beautiful on Xbox One. They look great on these two old quote-unquote toaster platforms. And it is easy for us to say, this is the transition. I mean, John and I got Xbox Series X's immediately, as fast as we could get them, because we're like, yeah, I'm done with the old, let's get with the new. Like, we were ready to roll. So I'm not saying that we're not ready to move on from something that came out in 2013. Certainly we are. But I know what can be done on those consoles, and this isn't even close. Like, not even in the same... Now, I know they're different games, but really, I've played GTA 5 on both those consoles, and it looks great on there. Like, real good. That's a big, giant open world, a huge city with tons of complex stuff happening. I'm not sure this game does things that are that much more complex than that. I'm not
You're
saying,
probably right. Like, they for sure messed up.
yeah,
You're not entitled to a refund. You bought the pre-order. There's probably terms and conditions. Hey, you took that chance. Like, you invested in the game before it was ready. Like, that's my thing. Is the adult thing is, don't give, if you give money sight and seen, don't expect to give it back. If and it is bad on them for sure. All this rage and stuff. It's just, it's noise. It's
but let
social
it
media
inform.
noise.
I guess I would say, you know what? I actually agree with you, because my whole point, my bottom line is, let this be yet another lesson in this regard, that they're not always going to come through the way they say they're going to on day one. And the companies who do and consistently do are the ones that you can maybe put your pre-order trust in. Also, although I never pre-order anything, so I don't know why you'd even do that. But certain rewards, I guess, is the only way you can get them, and that's another weird aspect of this industry that I don't think I love. But anyway, at the end of the day, let it be a lesson for those who got hosed, and don't do it again. Like, don't let this happen to you again if this really bit you in the butt. A lot of those people are going to get refunds. Apparently on the Microsoft side, it was way easier to get a refund. I've had to do that once on the Microsoft end, and it was a piece of cake. It was like doing Steam refunds. It was easy.
That's good.
So I have a feeling they're set up more for that. Sony is not, and never really has been great at that. So that's an issue, and this helped expose that a little bit, for good or for ill. But my biggest takeaway from this is, here's the other big takeaway. This is happening now. We're in the middle of the storm. And for us to be true heroes of the storm, just kidding, I don't want to go that direction. All right. Here's what's going to happen. Everything this big launches janky. This one maybe more so, okay? But still, that's a generally thing you get. You get it with Fallout. With Fallout 3, it was a mess at launch. A busted freaking mess. GTA 5 had all kinds of issues and problems. Like, these games launch in a state that is not perfect, and they work on it. The Witcher was not perfect by any stretch. And I remember the 7 stages of The Witcher, which were, these graphics don't match what they showed at E3. This doesn't look as good as we were told it would run. This runs better on Xbox than PlayStation for some reason. That shouldn't be. PlayStation has better hardware.
Why are the menus so small?
Yeah,
why is that horse
tiny.
effing that fence?
Right. Why is he still doing that in 2020? But you know what I mean? Like we went through those phases with The Witcher. Cut 5 years later, it's on everything, including the Switch, and a super competent version of that game on the Switch, by the way. With amazing features like it uses your Steam saves if you want, so you can keep your progress on the portable. Like, they've turned that game into a multi-platform monster hit that everybody, critics and players alike, most of the people I know who love RPGs, put that game in their top 5 RPGs of all time. Like, it's just one of those games that will go down in history as one of the great games ever. This is that same company and now we're in the 7 stages of grief of Cyberpunk, and we're going to go through this. So a lot of those same phases. It's a little bit more complicated because it all happened during a pandemic, and they broke sales records partly due to that, because everyone's breaking sales records right now on stuff to do at home, and all of those things play a factor. But what will happen in 5 years? I have a feeling we're all going to look back and go, oh, remember how bad that was when it launched, but boy, look how good it is now. This is a classic, modern classic. And even if it doesn't achieve that status, I have no doubt they'll get it to a place where everyone's happy, except those who just can't forgive the original sin.
Right.
So
they'll
that'll
get
happen
there eventually. I think that's part of what the problem was, is people look at Witcher 3 and they go, oh my gosh, what an amazing game. It's by the same people who made that. Like you were talking about, there's a pedigree with developers and pre-orders. Like, you typically feel good about pre-ordering stuff from certain companies. If Nintendo is throwing their weight behind something, you got a pretty good idea of what a Nintendo Mario game is going to be like. You might feel safe pre-ordering that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say until Warcraft 3 Remastered, I felt pretty good about pre-ordering anything from Blizzard. And even then, I probably could have spotted the warning signs if I had paid better attention, but I didn't. Naughty Dog is another one. If they all of a sudden put out a game that was incredibly janky and broken, I'd be surprised, because that's not what they typically do.
Right.
CD Projekt Red didn't have that pedigree, but we all looked back at The Witcher 3 and how much we love it and how amazing and incredible it was, and we all thought that meant they had that pedigree.
Right.
We had this real vision of where that game ended up versus where that game started, and I think it made it very easy for people to go, Witcher 3 people made this? This is going to be the best, most amazing game of all time. This will run great.
Yeah. Well, you could argue that Witcher 3's success is what's funded that company to where it is today and made this massive development house out of what was pretty moderate before that, and made them a huge player worldwide. They broke PC sales for Cyberpunk the same month as World of Warcraft did it with Shadowlands, with, what was it, 5 point something million copies on PC, which is an insane amount of copies pre-sold for a game. Like, they are in the big leagues for sure, but you're right, they don't have this history. And also, they don't have a history of, maybe they haven't had to deal with it like this. Like, so now we're getting to see them deal with it poorly, and that's a major growth, pain for them. They're going to have to figure out how to do this. But the success of Witcher 3, there's no doubt that had a massive influence on me and everybody else about expectations, because that was a hugely accomplished piece of work. And so we all went, oh, well, in that case, ergo, we will have a very accomplished piece of work on launch day over here. Oh, darn, they delayed it again. Don't worry, everyone. That means they're working hard on it. We have all these notions because we can't see behind the curtain. I'll guarantee you there's some dude over there, head of QA, who never sleeps at night, and all he hears in his head all night is, people will rhyme this with the word cyber junk. People will rhyme this with the word cyber junk. We've screwed up and picked the wrong name. It's a license. We couldn't help it. And they just spin out of control. Like, I know somebody feels like that over there. But anyway.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
I don't know.
Maybe not. Maybe so.
I don't think they care that much, honestly. Like, I think they do care, but when you're pouring, you're swimming in a money pool. I don't know. It's fine. They're fine.
Well, I think they.
Like, I would think a lot of games are not. If you're a big game developer and your game releases without controversy, you're kind of doing something wrong in a way. Like, Last of Us had controversy, maybe not technical, but the story was broken for some people. Or so, Diablo 3, great game, still gets lambasted constantly. I mean,
by
World of Warcraft
themselves. We're going to talk about another Diablo story, and literally you can go and read a Blizzard website talking about features for the game where they throw their own game under the bus, and it says, this is not the Diablo 3 auction house. What?
That didn't surprise me, though, because they've been pretty open, and Gears, when they pulled that out of the game, from then forward, they were always pretty open about, we thought it was going to work, but it turned out to be kind of a bad idea, which is why we removed it. I don't feel too bad about that. I think they're just trying to stem off this idea of, like, don't come in here comparing it to that, because we also know that was bad.
Yeah. They're trying to make you think that Diablo 4 will not make the mistakes of Diablo 3 so that you pre-order. And don't pre-order. Your problem is solved. Wait till you see a streamer play it or a review and then go like, oh, that looks good, I'm going to play it. Like,
well,
sorry,
and that's okay.
That's the
so
game.
That's the other controversial thing about this. No last gen console versions were put out for press, which is unusual, especially for a game of this size, so there could be reviews ready to go on launch day. That struck some as weird. The versions that you could do that with were PC only. And PC reviews early, the reviews that came out, that everyone just assumed, well, this is the review of the game, so this is going to be true across the board, whatever platform I play it on, were pretty glowing. Like, we had low to mid 90s scores on Metacritic from big review sources on day one. And now people are really mad at that process because they see that in twofold. One, they think that the glowing reviews were over the top glowing and they didn't quite spell the reality of even the PC version, which had its own issues. Lesser, but still there. But also the added layer of, well, maybe CD Projekt Red kind of manipulated the review timeline by not having these other ones out there, so that of course they knew it was going to look bad, but they would put review copies in the wild. They would have done it so that they would have reviewed it, and they would have been reviews along with these PC ones, but they didn't do that, which means they just wanted you to buy it anyway. Yeah. And they're making a gamble to say, well, we know we're going to fix this stuff eventually, so we just hope, sell a ton of them. Let's try to make as much money up front. Like, that's what's happening.
I think that's a game where you're talking about two evils, though, because like the gaming industry also tries to hold, in order to create value for people to go read it in the first place, makes these demands of game companies, right? Like, there's bonuses tied to Metacritic review scores at various companies. The companies themselves are owned by gaming interests in a lot of cases, so they'll look more favorably upon a game release within their family of companies and relationships than someone out. And I view CD Projekt Red as someone very much exterior, not having deep roots in like American companies. They're a Polish company. They have their own gaming platform. They're kind of doing their own thing. They're a competitor to like a lot of large storefronts.
Yeah.
And so I think personally, it's actually a good reason to say we're not giving advanced copies, because why? We'll release the game and they'll review it. Why do they need 4 days ahead of time? Like, they don't. And so I'm like pro not getting advanced copies for things. The reviewers eventually get it, and they can say it. It's the gaming press holding, the film, all press kind of does this with the various industries. It's because it's to get marketing out there. It's a form of native advertising.
Yeah,
I think it seems a little oddly backwards to say don't pre-order games, but then also do everything you can to prevent people from being able to
I'm
make
saying
an
they're both
decision
shitty.
on
I'm not
day
saying
one.
CD Projekt Red is like in the right. I'm saying, blaming them without looking at the press and saying they're not problematic either. It's like, this is just a whole interaction. This is business BS, basically, is what I'm trying to say, like, on both sides. And you're for sure right. Somebody had to take that gold disc and pop it into a PlayStation 4 at the company and went, oh shit. Like, that for sure happened. Like, that's a fact. That's undeniably so. But at the same time, if I was in that position, I'd be like, well, I'm not giving it to the damn reviewers, because what are they doing for us? They're just going to shit on it early. We want to make money.
Yeah,
that's why I say it's like the industry can't help itself. You have to help yourself, because they want to just take all your attention and take all your money and gloss it over with fancy words and promises. But the proof for me is I've done it so many times now that I'm like, they're just screwed. Like, at the end of the day, no one gives a shit about the consumer in this interaction. This is a business to business deal, and we get caught. Our money gets caught up in the middle of it. Yeah. So,
well, ultimately it is, though, because if you leave a sour enough taste in people's mouths, you hurt
bad
your
that
future
they did
projects.
it.
Yeah,
100%.
So like look at it this way: No Man's Sky is the example everyone always thinks of as something that launched very poorly and pissed off a lot of people and completely missed the target of expectation versus reality. And yet, that was a company that said, well, okay, whatever, we're putting our head down and making the game we wanted to make. And yes, we had to do it early, and there's things with Sony that made this happen early. We didn't want it to. We're not going to make excuses. We're just going to keep making the game we want to make, and we're going to make it rad. And while there's still people that will not forgive that original sin, that game is amazing right now. It is so good. It is almost like that game isn't 4.5, 5 years old or whatever it is now. It feels like it's just, they're always on it. When these new consoles came out, they said, yeah, guess what? Next week it'll launch. We're going to launch a patch that'll make it run. If you already own it, you just have it, and it'll look great on these new consoles, all the new stuff and the frame rates and everything. Good going. And also PC people are getting it. Oh, and we got 12 more updates coming. And oh yeah, we fixed these 10 things, and we added organic ships, and like constant attention and love to that game has taken it from one of the worst stories of launch failure in the games industry to what I think one of the great redemption stories in the games.
And they still haven't done microtransactions.
Right.
I just want to point out how weird that is, especially because that game has a system that's perfect for it. There's literally a currency that you only earn by participating in big community events that are for cosmetic items. And you're like, oh man, there's got to be a way to buy this, like, I don't remember what it's called, like stone silver or something like that. It's like, there's got to be some way to get this.
Yeah.
There isn't. It's just something you get in the game. They still haven't found a way to
dev team, right? That. Like the dev team's relatively small, right?
I don't know how many total, but it's small. Yeah.
Probably if I'm guessing, they're not motivated by vacuum up every possible cent they're leaving on the table. Is my impression.
Yeah.
It's like he probably is like, I have enough money. I made enough money from original sales. And I like my game, but let's just keep working on it. And like, why do I need to make money? Like, that notion is so foreign to everyone that like, you can just do things. Like, there are people out there who don't work for money. They will build something and ask you to pay what you want for it. Kyle Ferguson just released the DM campaign, has a little pay what you want on it. You can get it for free. He worked on it, but you can pay what you want if you wanted something. It's like, it's so foreign, the absolute idea that anyone would do that for a game. And that's how I perceive No Man's Sky. I think they like their game and they just want to keep working on it. And now we've paid them to basically retire.
Well, you're not wrong, but also it's and I admire it and like it, but it doesn't scale well, and that's the problem. Like, I would argue that CD Projekt Red from the Witcher 1 early 2 days was a lot more like a small dev kind of group that had that kind of fluidity, and not every shareholder on the planet was stomping their feet about what the hell's going on. It doesn't scale very well. And so what I like about not Hello Fresh, what are they called? Hello Games.
Hello.
is
Best game developer.
Yeah.
Hello Fresh.
Delivering food right to your door.
I like those guys because they clearly made bank on initial sales, a little bit of blowback and some returns and that stuff in the early days. But over time, they've built loyalty and more sales. And is it astronomical? Is it what a financial advisor might choose as the way to take things to the next level? Probably not. They're happy to stay kind of where they are. It's a bit like the Hades developers. I forgot their name.
Supergiant
Games.
Yeah.
They have a desire as an organization, through interviews and things I've read, they want to keep it like it is. They don't want to just explode. Now they want to add
no
jobs.
Hades PCG, no Hades MMO. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's
They're
it. That's the game. No sequel, even, as far as I know.
And if those things happen eventually, well, then who knows? And it's in partnership, or maybe there's reasons, or there's ways you can get there and still maintain this. But it's also the early Blizzard stuff that they tried so hard to maintain, and even when they were in a multi-billion-dollar position, they tried so hard to maintain that. Eventually, they had to sort of start to cave to the needs of the mothership. And that's kind of where they're at right now. And they're trying to salvage some of that stuff. But I think that's what Mike Morhaime wants from his new company. I think he wants to get back to that thing where you build a sustainable thing, and then you do it because you love it, and it makes money despite itself. And then you don't have the immediate need to scale up like everybody else and take it to the next level. Like, scaling's hard. Scaling is freaking hard.
You can't tell shareholders, hey, we're happy with where the game's at, so we're just gonna keep working on this thing over here. And they're like, what about my dividends? I'm a financial person.
You got to charge for it? No, we were thinking of just putting it out. We just really have a good time working on it, and don't we all have enough money?
It's not a very capitalist notion, you want to be able to sustain it and pay the bills, but it doesn't jive with the way big finance works. And so you either stay small or you go big and risk all this. And maybe they don't care because they're just sleeping in money over at CD Projekt Red. I don't know. Maybe they're just having sex with money all night. And it's great. And they're loving it. Putting their wiener in.
By the game content.
Yeah.
Well known what you do once you get a lot of money. Number one, you go have sex with it.
I'm just saying, at some point, I don't know. There's a reason why, when EA absorbs a company like BioWare, it's controversial at first, but then we're like, oh, look at Dragon Age Origins. This is pretty sweet. And, you start to see the work that money can provide, but then you start to see it erode over time. And then those founders are like, ugh, it doesn't feel right. This isn't what it was before. I'm out of here. I'm cutting my contract. This happens all the time. It's because the stuff they found personal, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a sense of personal accomplishment and or passion. That stuff's not being fed anymore because now you're just a cog in a big old fat machine that doesn't actually give a shit about what you think about this particular aspect of the design or what passions it brings up in players. Those things go to the wayside, and instead it's all, are we going to hit deadlines? Is it too broken to ship? Because if it's barely okay, we'll go ahead and ship and then fix later. These are all calculations based on financial needs. And that's the divider. So I think it's why I love indie games so much. All of them have some weird sense of purity to them. And I don't mean like philosophical or anything. I mean actually, I can feel it in the game when somebody makes a thing that they did just out of passion and love for what they wanted to make, and it's small, and they didn't have a bunch of purview or overview, and the only boss they have to listen to is what the fans tell them on the forums, and they build the thing they want to build. I can feel that. And I don't feel that from the giant AAA stuff as much or as often. Not that you don't ever. I would say Last of Us is a series, and I would even say the Nathan Drake games. I think those games are representative of a organization that is very successful and has lots of money to work with because they're basically a Sony studio at this point, but they still have the autonomy to say, we want to make what we want to make. And it comes through. You feel it, So
they've earned that place. But even then, I mean, they get in trouble and in hot water for crunch all the time. Yeah. And that's just going to happen when you scale up that much, especially when you're working on an artistic project. You're going to have people that are going to be passionate and they're not going to care about the work hours, and you're going to have people that are feeling guilty because they want to go home and have a family life and all of that, and there's 15 of their coworkers still working. I've been on both sides of that fence, where I've been into what I was doing and not ever wanting to stop, and also I've been the person going, I feel guilty if I leave, whether that pressure is being directly put on me by supervisors and managers, or whether that pressure is being put on me by myself. Neither is an ideal situation, and it's tough. But it's actually, the developers was one of the good aspects in this sea of bad news for CD Projekt Red. There was one bit of good news in all of it.
Yeah.
And that is that, like Bo mentioned earlier, a lot of video game companies will tie bonuses to Metacritic review scores and things like that. That is the original intent for Cyberpunk 2077. But they took that back. They said they are not going to tie bonuses to review scores for this game.
Probably directly after they saw it run on the PS4.
Yeah.
They put a gold disc in it and they went, oh shit, I don't want my... There's probably a little revolt internally, and they're like, okay, I guess we won't do that.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of freak out internally. I mean, who knows? We can't see inside this stuff, but that is one piece of good news from an employee sort of benefit standpoint, so I think that's good. There's also a lot of content out there now that helps you make a decision about this game. So the stuff Bo was saying, wait for it, we have it now. So if you've been on the fence, you're probably still going to be waiting, is my guess, unless you got a hot PC and you just can't stand not having it. You're probably
I've got 2 words for you.
Yeah.
GeForce Now.
Oh, yeah. So, all right, I'm going to read an email real quick about this. It's not GeForce Now, but it's in that vein, because weirdly, the game has become a bit of a showcase for Stadia. Runs real good on there and runs really well on GeForce Now as well. And that's an interesting twist, because who knew that the platform with the least complaints would be the one that, well, it's a small percentage of people, but still it's the one where, everybody has all these reservations about streaming games. And so this is interesting. I got this email from Martin. He says, hey gang, obviously thanks for your time and love for the show. I honestly fell away from the show back in the day, but checked back in and found that I love the shift to just general gaming news. Heroes of the Storm is great and all, but all three of you really have a great chemistry and it rises above it. Well, thanks, man. That's nice for you to say. It says, but today I reached, I reach as I'm listening to the most, I'm not sure what that means, the most recent episode in your discussion on the launch woes of the game. I was a bit bummed that you didn't discuss how, while everyone else is dealing with bugs and issues, CD Projekt Red had handled Stadia as a rather large feather to stick in its cap. And it seemed to launch with pretty consistent experiences for those who have it, and it looks really good. There are always jokes about 5 people who play Stadia, but the platform is growing. It's not without its flaws, but it's frustrating that my favorite podcast can't give Stadia the time of day. I understand that you follow your interests, but it wouldn't hurt to check it out more. I was able to play the year's most anticipated game the minute it launched. No waiting for downloads or installs, no list hard drive space or any of that stuff, and most importantly, no bugs. I hope you guys bring this up and read this email on the show. Either way, thanks again, Martin. Okay, Martin, the reason I read this email is because I think you have a point about our interests. Like, if we're not using Stadia, we're not going to bring it up that often.
Yeah, you couldn't give me a Stadia game. Sorry, Martin. I have zero interest in Stadia. You're not wrong in all your email.
Right.
But Bo's going to talk about... I did talk about GeForce Now last week.
Yeah, you did.
It wasn't Stadia, but we did talk about GeForce Now. Bo's going to talk about his experience because he's played mostly on it.
Yeah.
And I'm 100%... If you have Stadia, if you don't mind getting into that ecosystem and being good with it, I think that's an awesome way to play the game. And I totally support it.
Yeah.
It was just easier to take a game that I already owned on Steam and play on GeForce Now rather than buy a Stadia copy of the game, which has always been my issue.
That's my main issue right now with all of it, is I don't want it to be a cloud console. I want to be able to play what I want where I want. But anyway,
you can do it in the browser. If you have a computer, you're good.
Yeah. But aside from all of that, the Stadia thing I think is it's tiny bit overstated. And I'm not. It may be the best place to play it right now for those who either have the old consoles and can't do it, or don't have a PC beefy enough, or whatever. It may well be the best place to do this, in terms of that experience. But he says it launched without any bugs is not correct. that game isn't some magical version of the game. It's the game.
For sure, bugs. For sure.
Yeah. It's the game. It's the game we're all playing. It's the PC version of the game, but it's the game we're all playing. It's running on a server with good hardware, including a video card that can do ray tracing and all the stuff you want to get out of that game. And then you're streaming it to you, and if your ISP's handling it, that's great. That's all awesome, but I don't want to get in this rut where we're pretending we're playing a version of the game that is different than the game we're playing. It's the same game. It's no different.
Well,
you're just streaming
when we get to talking about our personal experiences with Cyberpunk, you will hear the experiences of the PC version of Cyberpunk, and it ain't a bug-free version of the game.
No, it's got its
Not
issues.
by a long shot.
Right. It has problems that are fundamental issues deep inside this thing that again, my personal feeling is they'll figure it all out and it'll be a classic in 5 years, or something close, and DLC will help and all that. But as it stands right now, you're playing the same version of that game that I own on Steam, that John has on Steam, that Bo is playing on GeForce Now via Steam. That's the version that we're all playing. So just to throw that out there. All right, Bo. GeForce Now and your experience with that. I know John messed with it a little bit, but how's that going?
Yeah, so just a few stats so that people have the right context. I'm playing it on GeForce Now. I have like a 12-year-old computer. I've got a pretty late-gen graphics card natively, but I haven't even tried to run it natively on my system. Yeah. The other thing that you need to know is I have gigabit internet connection, so your results may vary because at 60 frames per second, 1080p resolution, 10 gigs an hour. So if you got a cap, it's not going to be good for you. And I don't know, your results may vary depending on your connection speed. I don't know how that impacts it, but I've got preem internet, as they say in Cyberpunk jargon, you chumbas, or chooms or whatever they say. Yeah, it's been flawless, honestly. I've been playing Valhalla exclusively on it, also at maximum graphics. And the best thing is, like, when you load up the graphics section and it gives you the readout of the VRAM, like, you got 4 gigs of VRAM and how much of it it's using. I've got like 80 gigs of VRAM. I don't even know what kind of monster card they're running this stuff on, but I'm like, yeah, I like this. I wouldn't esports on streaming just yet, but my experience with single player games has been flawless. I don't notice it at all.
Yeah.
This is an aiming game. I'm doing headshots. I've streamed at 1080p 60 frames while also streaming the game with absolutely no lag or effect. It uses barely any resources. So my experience of the game has been flawless, with the exception of occasionally, if you get a spotty connection, you'll get a DC. And sometimes your saves don't stick. If you walk away from the PC and leave it on, it won't let you just leave the game streaming. It'll disconnect you. And that can run ramshot on your cloud saves. If you don't get a chance to save your save games to the cloud, you might find yourself having to redo certain sections of the game if you didn't save it and then it disconnected on you due to a spotty connection or something like that. So I do have to quit periodically so that it does the cloud sync so that it saves my game because I'm logging into the GOG service.
Yeah.
And I don't actually own a local machine on NVIDIA server. So there's a few like things you need to know getting into it. The other aspect that's bad is when there's a lot of movement, the pixelation does increase. Small. I'm playing on a 50-foot TV or 50-inch TV. I'm playing on a 50-inch TV pretty close, so I can see that when the pixels get a little bigger. I'm curious to try it on my normal size monitor to see if I really notice it. I have a feeling I won't. But it's not the artifacting that you get sometimes when you start Netflix and the first like 10 seconds are like, what, do I have the right resolution? I don't know if you guys experienced that, but sometimes I start something and I'm like, the resolution's bad, and then it gets good in like a few seconds.
Yeah.
This does have a little bit of that, but nothing where I'm like, I have to stop playing this game. I have it on ultra ray tracing, super bongo graphics. Everything's all insane, and it's a acceptable trade-off in my mind to have the preem version of Cyberpunk. So I'm a big believer in GeForce. I've been playing nothing but GeForce Now for the past month or 2 months, pretty much.
Yeah, if you got the internet connection for it and you're not capped and it's working, like it really is something. It's something to watch. Now, this week, Stadia put so now iOS, or you can play on iOS, you can play on your phones, your iPads, sync it up with controllers, play that way. You can do that soon with Microsoft's going to do that also. Next week, I think that happens. Android's already happening for them. And what else? There was some other big news. Oh, Luna. Oh, well, I guess Luna already does, but they don't have open registration for Amazon Luna yet. But the stuff's coming, man. It's happening. We're in it. and they're all competing.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, we've talked about it at length on the show before, but it is the future. If they have the supercomputers that can host 1,000 concurrent players at the same time, because the communication lag on an MMO is way less, so you can have way more objects and things happening. Like, yeah, let's do that, please.
Yeah.
Like, this is amazing.
Because at some point, we're going to get away from the idea that you're streaming that game over the internet. How does that even work? We're going to get away from that brain, and we're going to get to our new brain, which says, you are playing a video game. And that's
like, you noob, you're playing it local? What are you, some kind of poor person?
Yeah,
that's what it's going to be like. Actually, not even, because it'll be like $5 to play online.
Yeah, you just got to say you're now playing a video game, and that's it.
People are just going to look at you and be very sad for you.
Yeah.
Or it might go the other way. It might be people go, oh, geez, you must be made of money, because now it's so commonplace to stream. The idea of having a computer that can run what they're putting out there, they're like, oh, what? You invested $5,000 into a gaming PC? Weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
Bold for you to go that path.
Yeah. That's why I think Microsoft, I keep saying this, but I feel like the Series X is and the S are positioned to be great. As much as they're hardware that can do a lot of things on their own, they're also going to be great client and less expensive clients, but very capable clients for this new potential future where everything's streaming.
Patching and updates are going to be so easy. They're not going to have to worry about all the different machines and make sure their installer even runs on. They just got to make sure it runs on their stuff. Like, they're going to save. This is like a cost savings for them too. I know it doesn't seem like it, but I think it really is, honestly.
Yeah, I think in the end, well, I mean, in a lot of ways it is, because they've already got that infrastructure for their business side. Like Azure, the Azure server side of Microsoft is what makes them all the money these days. And it's not from gaming, but gaming can tap right into it and use it. That is almost like it's just a value add for them. Like they don't have to invest in much. This is why I feel like Sony's kind of in a bit of a pinch right now. And I think they can get themselves out of it, but they have to partner with somebody. They don't have the option. They don't have the gigantic infrastructure that is Azure or that is AWS in the case of Microsoft or Amazon, or even GeForce and their investment in these data centers. They haven't done that. They don't have that. And so for them to do anything, like right now, their PlayStation Now runs on Azure. It's running on Microsoft's tech. So even their one example of streaming stuff is using that. Like that puts them in a really precarious, weird position. I think they can.
It's in the monopoly position, right? Because a lot of people can start a gaming company nowadays, but if the expectation is it's streaming, well, if you want to start a game company, you have to also buy a server farm or whatever, like all that infrastructure to meet the higher standard of gaming. It's going to be very hard. I think we'll always have indie gaming. I don't think that ever goes away. But for the preem experiences, it's going to make it hard for competition to enter the space. Which I'm sure if you're a business, you love that, because then that means the money goes to you.
Yeah, either way you win, and I don't know. Just Sony's going to have to figure that out, and I hope they do. But yeah, it's been interesting. Just an interesting week of like getting out of the honeymoon phase for a lot of people on PC. We're having no problems. That includes Stadia. I mean, Stadia is basically remote PC service. I don't know if anyone's ready to hear that, but that's all that is. And you're having a great experience. I think that's awesome. Well done. If you bought
people who probably wouldn't have been able to play this game that can because of Stadia.
Yeah,
it's basically you're buying a computer that runs only one program, and that's GeForce Now.
Yeah, well, in this case, yeah, like in the case of GeForce is interesting because it's all about your existing library. The Stadia thing is, no, we're a platform. You buy the games you play here, and you don't buy them anywhere else. You buy them here and only here. If you're going to play it here, you buy them here. And we have a few free ones, but it's Destiny 2 and some other thing. And then in the Luna case, it's services more like add-on TV services. So it's like, hey, you can get all the Ubisoft stuff for another $15 a month on top of the $4 you pay us now. And like they're going for a slightly different approach. Microsoft's approach is, hey, you like Game Pass? Well, what if Game Pass was a thing that was just available all the time anywhere with an internet connection too, not just this way? And any games you buy on our platform, you can play there as well. Like they're taking kind of like a whole buffet approach. It'll be interesting to see which one of these truly
streaming available on Microsoft, Scott?
Is what now?
Is game streaming available on Microsoft? On the Xbox, I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
you
can play
GeForce Now, like the xCloud, you can do that now.
It's still technically in beta, but John, you've been using it on a phone and testing it and stuff, or at least seeing it. I know it's not your preferred way to play, but it works.
Then Microsoft.
Oh no, it works. It works great.
Oh,
I mean, granted, I was all within the network. I was streaming it to my phone from the bedroom. It was in the same house, but yeah, it was cool. It was super cool. Scared my wife. She was like, "You are gonna be in the bathroom for forever with this streaming technology."
It's really interesting just to see that. I feel like it's accelerated. We're going to see this really fast, and the uptick is going to be quicker than we think it is. And a couple of years from now, I think is going to feel very different than it does now. Will it be entirely what we do? Maybe not. There's still a lot of this country that has crappy rural internet, and it sucks. We don't have a good unified infrastructure for this. So there's that problem, and other parts of the world do, and therefore they'll just dive into this probably in a way that we can't as a nation.
I guess that's why Microsoft's doing both then. Because
if
if you have crappy internet, here's the offerings for crappy internet people, and if you have good internet, like the killer app's coming, the killer game, is like you can only play it over streaming, and it's incredible and leverages the technology in a way no other games can't, and you'll want to play it. And Microsoft, to me, is best positioned for that success, whatever it's going to be.
Here's crazy news.
Yeah, breaking news.
Sometimes everybody, when you're doing a show, news breaks. Yep. And considering we talked about this and it would not age well, Sony is now saying they will give refunds for anybody who purchased Cyberpunk 2077, and they are pulling the game from the PlayStation Store until further notice.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting given that. So again, a reminder, if you're playing this on Series X or playing this on PlayStation 5, you're playing an Xbox One / PlayStation 4 version of the game, but you're doing it in a new hardware environment that runs it better. But you're still playing that version of the game. The next gen version of that game on the consoles is not out yet. And it won't be till mid or late next year. So this is super interesting because that's shutting the door on even those people. It's even shutting the door on them by removing it from the PlayStation Store entirely. That's their way of saying, look, until they get their poo together, you can't buy this here. If you already own it, you can keep playing it, but whatever.
Sony being a Japanese company, the dishonor and shame that they must feel right now is probably,
maybe,
you know what I mean?
I don't know.
Because I don't see Xbox memes. I see PS4 memes, but it's like I've saw some pretty good PS4 memes going around.
Yeah,
and if they're not the ones giving the refund, they're I want to make racist jokes, but someone might have to commit seppuku at some point over there.
Yeah, like you never know with this stuff. But like, I'm trying to show the chat here. There's the screen. They say SIE strives to ensure highest quality or highest level of customer satisfaction. Therefore, we begin to offer a full refund for all games gamers who have purchased Cyberpunk 2077 via the PlayStation Store. SIE will be also removing the game from the PlayStation Store until further notice. You have brought dishonor to our family. That's the end of the statement right there. Oh, I added that last part. Sorry. I added that there at the end.
I think that's modifications to the end of
just
it.
Just a slight tweak.
I've been watching a lot of South Park. That might be it too.
Yeah, that could do it.
That's crazy. That's nuts. It's weird because I wasn't really thinking of doing this, but it made me go, should I go buy that on the Microsoft Store right now before it gets pulled? Because it would run just fine on my Series X. Like,
it does.
Should I get that right now?
I have it right now. I wish there was a way to share saves because I also
can't. Did they pull it from the PS5 store too? They can't buy it for PS5.
Yeah, because the PlayStation Store
it's out of the store.
They are mad. They're mad. That's what you do when you're upset. They're so mad.
They're pretty pissed. It feels like it, and I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft didn't follow suit, just given the pressures of that. I know they're already doing refunds, so whether or not I don't know how that's going to go. But anyway,
it is a nobody is getting dessert kind of move. Like it is you have pushed us too far. Everyone will suffer now. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a very family-oriented analogy.
I literally said it today. It was a thing that came up. Can I have some candy? Because she got candy in her Lunchables, and I didn't have a Lunchable, so I didn't get candy. And then she came in, and she was like, well, I didn't like the candy that I got. Yeah. And she was like, he can have my candy. And then he was like, I don't want your candy. I want to pick up separate candy. And I said, nobody gets candy. So no candy. That is what Sony pulled right here.
Yep. You got to do that sometimes. Sometimes it's no candy for anyone if you guys can't get along.
This
So that's how
problem
it's gonna
got
be.
too complicated. I could have solved it in stage 1, but we got to stage 4, and now nobody gets candy.
Yep. This will all. I mean, when I tell you what I played this last week, it's all. Cyberpunk had something to do with everything I played this week, and you'll be interested. It'll be interesting to see if you guys can help me suss out why that was.
Yeah.
Also, a couple other little bits before we move on to what we played. Mass Effect got a new teaser. This is for it's called just straight up Mass Effect. So we don't know if there's a subtitle or whatever, but it appears to be a direct, not sequel, maybe not direct sequel, but like after the events of 3. And
yeah, I mean, Liara is in the trailer.
Yeah, John's favorite character.
My girl.
Yep.
She's in the trailer, Scott.
And not only that, she goes and finds some N7 armor, and it made you completely forget that Andromeda existed.
It
I
did.
thought Tally was
like,
a girl.
What? No. Look, Tally's great, but we're just friends.
Oh, sorry. It was my mistake. I just have this memory of you just being all gushing all over Tally.
I love Tally. I love all the characters. I love Garrus.
Yeah.
I love Garrus, but Liara.
I know you love all of them, but I thought Tally was your girl. That's all. I stand corrected.
It did. We literally just sat here and told the cautionary tale of putting too much hype behind something unfounded. And also saying, learn from the mistakes and the history of the past.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, I saw a single trailer for something, and I am now at maximum hype, and I have forgotten that Mass Effect Andromeda exists and will continue to do so until this either breaks my heart or fulfills all my hopes and dreams. Because I made a sound that was not unlike Donald Duck when I watched this trailer. Like, I was over the moon excited. I was.
Yeah, that was it.
That was the sound. That was it. And
I'll pre-order.
I'm gonna pre-order it. I'm gonna pre-order it immediately.
Yeah, but what end? Unless they give you a bunch of benefits, you're not gonna pre-order. Why pre-order?
Because I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah, but
and
you're gonna buy it.
Give me benefits.
But what's the difference? If you can't preload till the night before, just buy it and preload it the night before. You know
if I'm gonna buy it the night before, I'm not gonna know whether or not the game's good. I might as well pre-order it a month from now.
I love that. I love it because this was
Look,
like the most.
This is the one exception, you guys. I say don't pre-order games, and I stand by it, even for this game, for everyone except me.
Yeah,
I love.
It's fine to pre-order. Just if you know what you're getting into, like it's entirely possible. Everyone, you pre-order something and you expect a nice, wonderful, delectable dish, 5-star chef prepared. It's possible you get handed a plate with a giant piece of shit on it. A homeless guy shit on the plate. Yeah. There's no promise that it's going to be any good.
Yeah.
It's art. It's gaming. You might be good and you don't like it.
You know,
I haven't pre-ordered it yet. I will make a determination on a time and place. I will announce it on the show when I pre-order Mass Effect. But I'm so excited, you guys. I watched this thing and I thought, oh, they're doing a prequel because there was a lot of stuff that made it seem like it was going to be about the First Contact War from when the humans first bumped into the Turians. And I was like, okay, it's a known quantity. Like, that's the hard part about prequels is you know that this is ultimately leading to the big Reaper fight and who cares? And then all of a sudden we saw dead Reapers and we heard the Reaper sound. And then there was Liara in a cloak picking up N7 armor. And that's it. That's all it took. My heart skipped a beat and I feel happy. And I'm so excited for this.
As an avid follower of John on Twitter, it was clear to me that he was excited very quickly. You were all in. Here's the thing. I want to challenge something Bo said just on a fundamental level. Or I guess I will ask this question. Bo, if you were presented, if you were in a place where you said, all right, I've signed up for this, I have to do it, I have to make a choice. And someone said to you, Bo, you have to eat this plate, which has a homeless person's poo on it. Or you have to eat this plate, which has a 500-pound billionaire's poo on it. I don't mean the poo's 500 pounds. I'm saying the 500-pound guy made it. Okay.
I was like, one of those is much more poop than the other.
Of those two plates, which way are you going to go? Because I'll just say, I think I'd lean toward homeless because it'll be like dried out and poorly hydrated and I can get it down quick. Whereas this guy over here eats 4 lobsters for lunch is going to ruin my year. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be
I
real
mean,
bad.
is it sight unseen? Do I get to see the poo or do I not know? I have to
You
make
do not know. You
determination
have to
based
make
on
that
their
decision. Yeah. You'll know the following. You'll know why. You'll know who the rich guy is and basically what his life's like. And you'll know that where that homeless person lives and generally what their day is like. But beyond that, so it won't be somebody that's sitting around eating AIDS-infested boogers. I mean, it'll be like it's just
I'll be
somebody
AIDS-infested rats. Like you're homeless. I don't know. I don't know about the homeless poo. I think I go. With
I'm upset
You
that
can
we
take me to the risk.
transitioned from my love of Mass Effect to this.
I just both said it and I couldn't let it go. I have to know what would be so bad about a homeless poo versus a fully.
This is like we're getting an extra segment of this from TMS.
Like,
Remember when you
what's the punishment if I choose neither? Like, usually you have to incentivize someone. What are they going to do? Kill me? Maybe I pick that instead of eating the poop.
If in the hypotheticals, you could add that option, I suppose, but it makes it less interesting because then you just cop out and can't, you don't do it. Of course, walking away would be my number one choice. I don't want anything.
You say gun to your head, I think. Did you say gun to your head? Like you have to do it.
I pick the gun. I don't want to eat poop.
Okay, you know what?
Oh,
The gun is an option when it's to your head. So John will take death before he eats poop.
I'll take the death. Yeah.
I think I would too, by the
Fine.
way. I don't think
Everybody dies. I just
I'll
get
eat
there
poop.
quicker, and guess what? I'll have better breath.
I'll eat poop. It's fine. I have no problem eating poop.
Wow.
I'm good. I'll eat both poops. Since you guys won't be around to eat them, I guess I'll have both. Maybe I'll get a bonus.
I'll
get quest completion, like double it.
Yeah, you'll eat the poo and you'll pocket the gun and you're out of there.
I'll eat both poos and I'll get the best ending.
That is really funny. All right. What else? Oh, EA. Speaking of EA, EA Games on Game Pass PC was supposed to happen on the 15th. It did not. It's now delayed till next year, probably next month. They didn't say though. So for Game Pass people on console, you're already benefiting from this. Oh, and by the way, they put NHL 94 on there, the Genesis version.
They did. I was like, what is this?
It's great because that's the best hockey game they ever made. And I love video game hockey. I don't talk about it on the show a lot, but it's one of my favorite things in the world. I don't know why. I love hockey in a way that's weird. And it's mostly video game hockey, although I do enjoy a live game. And I kind of watch the Stanley Cup playoffs and that stuff. But I think hockey's cool. And I always have a lot of fun with it. But where I had the most fun was NHL 94. So much fun. I had it on Sega CD, Genesis, and a Super Nintendo because I like that game so much. Talk about multi-platform idiot buying habits. And I had it on all those things. I wanted to play it wherever I was and wherever I could. And the Sega CD version was awesome because it was the same exact game, graphics, everything, old 16-bit looking graphics and stuff, but it had real crowd noise, actual organ, and all the sounds on the ice were digitized sounds of ice stuff and not crappy sound chip stuff. And I just thought that was so cool. So anyway, I of course downloaded it because I have Game Pass and it's just included now. It's so good.
The Sega CD version?
No, sadly it's just it's the cartridge version, which isn't it's not a
Sega
giant
CD
deal.
doesn't get enough love. Sega CD was a fine console, everybody.
That edition, it's not like they couldn't have done that in this day and age. Just say, hey, this is the Sega CD version, or switch over. Like it's like we're talking about a couple of megabytes of data, I think. Like it's nothing. Yeah. So they totally could have done it, but they didn't. But it's still very good, and it reminded me that when I get one of these games that's like the proper full one, like a big yearly edition of NHL 90 or NHL 2020 or whatever, I play that game. They have an option to use NHL 94 controls. So you can go into those options and say, there's all these settings and things, and one of them is use NHL 94 controls. That's how iconic that game is. And you hit it, and now you get all the same basic control functionality in this high fidelity, super ultra realistic setting, but you're doing it with these controls from that game. It was a hell of a game. So good.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's on Game Pass.
Did you have a Sega CDX? Were you the other person
Yes.
I knew who had a CDX?
I love that we have that in
That
common.
console was something special. It was my goodness.
It was sick. Because it had it had 32X built in. Right?
No, you still had to buy the 32X.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a CD player, and it had the Sega CD drive, and then just a little slot in the back for the Genesis cartridge.
Yep.
And then you could plug the 32X into it. It was still
and it had two controller ports, came with a 6-button controller, I think. One, and then I had another one with my Genesis anyway. That thing was like $400 and something. I went into debt to get that thing because I was weird in the 90s. And I loved it. And it's the only regret. One of the great regrets of my life is I don't have that now. I sold it.
Yeah. I feel the same way. That console was just so cool.
Bums me out.
Everybody else with their giant Genesis bolt on top of a CD drive.
Yeah.
This thing was so tiny and so powerful. Look it up. Sega CDX, everybody.
Yes.
It was a cool
Sega
console.
CDX is so rad. That's also a car now, so you have to like say Sega.
Oh,
There's a CDX. I don't know who makes it, but here you go, chat. You can see some of these. It was just really solid state and kind of heavy and just like cool. It wasn't battery driven. You still plugged it in.
Yeah.
But as you can see, the size of those cartridges or those controllers sitting next to it, it wasn't huge. It was for what it was. I thought that thing was so badass.
It was like having a big Discman.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could use it for music CDs as well, so that was no big deal. Had a little readout for it and everything, like a tracker thing on the front and all that. And the disc thing would just pop open. You put your games in there, your Sega CD games in there. Oh man, what a weird ass thing. The fact that this exists at all is weird, you know. And it kind of makes me. There have been times I've been on eBay going, I want a CDX again, but I should have kept it.
Got it.
What was I thinking?
Yeah.
I sold it for. I think I paid off a
We
credit
all,
card.
we all did stuff like that.
That thing was so cool. All right, let's move on to this information about Diablo Immortal. That was a big drop today. Big news drop from Blizzard. Diablo Immortal has entered technical alpha for anyone who has a phone. So if you have phones, cellular phone devices like this one, you're good to go.
I did a little contest with the tweet about it, and I thought, okay, let's take our bets on how many replies down I have to get before someone mentions you have a phone, right? And the answer was immediately first response was about you have a phone, right?
Yep.
So, if you guessed anything higher than 1, you guessed too far.
Yeah, you went way too far. So anyway, it's they have a whole bunch of information about it, a ton of art and some press kits and some other stuff. They detailed how the progression of the game works, how player itemization and the stuff you worry about in an action RPG, how that stuff's going to work. And they also detailed the part of the game that will likely be where they make the money. They went out of their way, as you mentioned earlier in the show, to say, hey, this is not the Diablo 3 auction house, so don't stress about that. And there was something else that was important or significant. I can't remember. Anyway, it's happening. We're going to get this game. If it's only technical alpha, though, that still tells me we're a ways off. But I think this game is happening. Does it happen? See, this is weird to me. Does it happen simultaneously with Diablo 4? Or does this tell me that Diablo 4 is going to bump a year? And not be this year?
There's no way they adjust Diablo 4's release because of this game. I cannot imagine in a million years they would go, well, we got Diablo Immortal coming out. We better push this back a little bit. Make sure we get breathing room in there for our shitty phone game.
Yeah.
That's not a discussion that they're having. But you're right. There could be something that you can infer from the fact that, maybe it's a little further out. But I don't think this touches Diablo 4's release date. But I think Diablo 4 is still a ways to go.
Interesting.
We're getting occasional updates on Diablo 4, which is more than they're saying about Overwatch 2. So at least we're still getting updates from them. Overwatch 2, I don't know. I assume they're still making that game, right?
Yeah, I think it's happening. Still a deal. Sure.
The big expansion pack they put a 2 on. And
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know what to expect.
I'm not going to get Diablo Immortal, but I am looking forward to Diablo 4.
All right, John, I found a deal for you. I was just looking on eBay here. Sega Genesis CDX game system plus 22 games, a Game Genie, 2 controllers, all working, RF or an RF switch too, because you need that for HDMI conversion. $1,500 or best offer.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Makes me so sad I got rid of
Yep.
anything.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then I made the same mistake again, Scott, because when I was helping my parents with a garage sale,
yeah.
I found a bunch of old NES stuff.
Uh-huh.
And some guy came over. My parents were just like, just sell the stuff. Just sell it. Just
Yeah.
sell it. We don't care. And the guy's like, give you $30 for it. I was like, go. I'm like, I know that it's worth more than $30. I absolutely know it's worth more than $30, but I'm not going to put it on eBay, and neither are they.
No.
So $30 in the hand is better than a hypothetical amount that doesn't exist.
That's true. By the way, $210 if you want just the console without any controllers or anything else. It's also untested. So there are cheaper ones for, $200, $300, but I'm sickened. I should have kept it. I'm so annoyed.
Yeah.
If anyone out there has one, they're like, I'll give it to you for $30. Call me. Send me a message. Email me.
I miss it. It was just a cool console. It was so easy to take over to your friend's house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll bring the Genesis over. Or the Sega CD.
Yeah, it was great. That was the great thing about it. It became like this ultra, which wasn't true back then. You couldn't just grab, well, I guess you could grab your SNES and run to your neighbors or your friends or whatever. But this thing was just like this little package. And you could just say, and everyone wanted one, and it looked so cool. You were cooler because of it. I was.
Yeah.
People saw that and said, what the hell even is that? Oh, this is the Sega CDX. Have you not heard? That's the kind of conversations I would have. This just in today, there was a tweet put up by Greg Street. We're not going to talk a ton about it. We did a little bit in the pre-show, so if you're a patron, you're going to get more discussion. But Greg Street has announced that League or Riot is building an MMO, basically, and he's in charge. That all the stuff he's been doing there, the tweet says to me that they have been working toward this. And none of this shocks me. Here's his exact tweet. And if there was any confusion, he clears it up later. He says, I have news. This is at Ghostcrawler. And for those who don't know Greg, he's former big shot at Blizzard, was head of all sorts of stuff on the WoW team back in the day. And also just like the number one dude that interfaced with fans and like talked to people online and answered forum questions and all that. He's just a great guy. Anyway, it says, my recent job at Riot has been to help develop the League universe, which we're going to need because it's time. That to me says that it's all been leading to this. My new job at the company is to kick off a big, some might say massive, game that many of you and many rioters have been asking for us to create. P.S. We are hiring. We're already up to almost 17,000 likes on that account or that post. And then a couple of replies later, it's an MMO, he says, in reply to somebody who asked if it was an MMO. So Riot Games is making a League of Legends based, massively multiplayer online role-playing game. Or at least a massively multiplayer online game, because they didn't put the RPG in there. So I don't know if that matters. But there you go. Bo, thoughts? Flash thoughts about the concept of I mean, like I said, we did this in pre-show, so people can go listen to that. But anything you want to add?
Mid or throw?
Mid or throw? What does that mean?
I don't know. It means I get to play mid or I throw the game.
Oh. Well, see, that would be interesting because if the game, I wonder if this turn-based thing that's coming out is actually meant to be a bit of a story bump for this ultimately, because that's coming out soon-ish. And that will have
they have
a
very
ton of
extensive lore for their characters.
Yeah.
At the same time, they're all very like human-y characters, and in an MMO, you need big dragons and stuff to kill, cool things. So I'm curious what it's going to look like. My impression is it's Greg Street, and they got a lot of money over there at Riot. I'm sure they're going to make a good product.
Yeah, one would expect that they've got people and resources to build something nice, whether or not we like it or
I'm not personally. I think I'm stealing John's thunder a bit. If you listen to the pre-show, you might already have heard this, but I'm not particularly jazzed about. It's not my favorite universe of lore, but I realize that it is for many. So
yeah.
I don't really want to play like Caitlyn in an MMO or get quests from her. She's great in play. I love playing her in the game, but I'm not going. You know what this character needs? A bunch of backstory. I'm just like,
Yeah.
Even Vi, I love playing Vi, but she's a bank robber. She has big fists. I mean, lots of games with people with big fists. Like, there's just nothing in it that's like a hook. Like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, for me,
what I'm really hyped about was the Black Desert guys are making, I think, a single player game, like Crimson Desert. I'm like, oh, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
what they do is very cool. Yeah, so I just don't know what to expect really, and I'll have to see something first, I think.
Yeah, I think my number one hype factor here is nothing to do with the game, League of Legends as a whole, Riot, or any of that. It's that Greg is in charge. Like, that to me is a huge deal based almost entirely on that. It's like finding out that Noah Hawley's doing a new television show. Like, they announced he's doing an Alien adaptation for FX, and it's all I needed to hear, that he's involved and I'm in.
Wow, that sounds cool.
Otherwise, I'd be like super skeptical of an Aliens serialized television show, but with Noah Hawley in the driver's seat, like, he turned Fargo into my favorite thing on TV, so he can do it. And that's how I'm about, like, Denis Villeneuve, dude that did Blade Runner 2049 and freaking my brain's dying on the first movie. It's not Syndicate. Sicario, that's it. Sicario is an amazing film. Like, he's yet to make a bad movie, and when I heard he was making Dune, I went, yeah, that's right. He's making Dune. That's perfect. Who else are you going to get to make Dune? It had been anybody else. If they'd have said, J.J. Abrams is making Dune, I would have went, okay, I don't know. Yeah.
We don't need to give him any more franchises, please.
Right.
Keep away from everything else, please. Thanks.
So in this scenario, Greg Street is my muse. And when it comes to this sort of stuff, he's a muse for a lot of people. And I think I don't know, that says something in and of itself for me. Also, I think we live in a world where this game will be free and none of us are going to have to pay anything to try it when it comes out. So it'll be fine. And we might all be 65 when it comes out. They're just announcing it. So who knows how quick they can do this. Although, you know what? The last 4 games they put out, when League was the only thing for 10 years, the last 4 games they put out in rapid succession. Like, announcement to finish in way record time. So maybe this thing ends up being like Valorant or whatever. It'll just be like, bam, here it is. I don't know.
It might be well along. You never know.
Yeah. Feels like maybe that's their mode, because they didn't announce any of this stuff until they were almost ready to go. They did their big announcements.
Like, you would have think they would have known about it when they did their big hype video, when they announced all those other games. Why wouldn't they drop the MMO thing there?
Because,
they've had Greg for a while, but they did. So.
But also on the tweet, he says, it's my new job. I don't know what that means, because it feels like that was always going to be your job.
Well, they also said they're hiring. If it was almost done, I don't think they're ramping up hiring processes. So
that's another thing.
We got a ways.
Maybe you're right. Yeah.
We demand a release date, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
And make people
and a pre-order button.
Yeah, and a pre-order button and crunch. We want crunch. No, we
Speaking
don't.
of Greg, if you want a extremely casual, long-term player perspective of somebody who's a busy dad, casual person, I know somebody who doesn't have a job and lots of opinions.
Yeah, I know a guy. I totally know a guy. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Strong opinions. Can you imagine, though?
I can hook you up with that fellow right there.
Can you imagine, though, just for a second, if John, who is so skeptical about this particular property, ends up going to work there? That would be something.
That's who you want. You want people who are skeptical. You hire a fanboy, you get Rise of Skywalker. You want somebody who's going to come in and go, I'm gonna challenge it. I'm gonna make a game that I would like, despite not being invested.
Yeah, when we give you your own department, the first one of its kind, director of opinions.
Yeah. John Jagger,
man,
director
if that was
of
a
opinions.
job, I'd make so much money. Holy shit.
I'm going to work with John Jagger at Opinions. He's the best opinion guy in the business. He's got
Send it down to Opinions. See what they think down there.
Yeah, what do you think Opinions and their team thinks? Wow, send it up the chain to John Jagger, Lord of Opinions.
Who answered your inquiry into Opinions? Yeah, John got it.
I don't know why this all turned into it's the 40s. And
he's a hard person to get on your side. You're going to need to send it with a fruit basket.
Yeah, thanks, honey. Send it down the line. See? Yeah. All right. We did it, everyone. Now we got to talk about some of these. All right. Despite Cyberpunk existing and having it on a hard drive and on a console, I played more of the following games. It's weird because I've played 2 hours of Cyberpunk, 2 hours. And I fell off because it started to feel real. I'm trying to be honest about my feelings about it because I'm not going to say that all this hubbub hasn't at least affected my desire to play, because it has a little. But most of what affected it was I was just kind of like, this is not really holding me. Like, it's not exactly what I think I had in my head that this was going to. About 2.5 hours is all. So I'm.
Hey,
in
that's
the
long
city
enough
doing
to
missions.
decide how big you want your genitals to be.
Like what? Yeah, what point? Like what point in the game? Spoilers. Notice. I sorry to interrupt, but I just want to know. It depends how far you got. I think.
I'm riding.
Did you see the title card?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I haven't seen the title card yet. I hear that comes late though, is what I've heard.
It's very
Late.
late.
Yeah.
And you, if it wouldn't shock me for someone to say, "Oh, I didn't get hooked" when they didn't see the title card.
Okay, that's fair enough. And I'm not done. Obviously, I'm going to keep going. I didn't get it on 2 platforms because I hate it. My goal is to, now that I know there's no cross save plans from CD Projekt Red, I think I'm just going to mainline the PC version. But anyway, I will be curious when they release next gen ones just to see what they do with, like, hey, you already own it. Here's the free update. I mean, I think we're insured that now, by the way, given all the hubbub around this. There's no way they're going to double charge for that. But anyway, back to my point. I got far enough where I was like, kind of just in the mood for this other game. So I played a ton of Assassin's Creed again, which I love. I love that game. It's really good.
Yeah.
And it was scratching my open world needs a little bit better. Part of this is I like third person open world games because I can see my dude more. I don't know why. Just like seeing my dude. I don't understand how in Cyberpunk. Maybe Bo, you can explain this to me because you know more about the original tabletop game than I'll ever know. You've forgotten more than I'll ever know. I'll just put it that way. The penis slider, as an example, like when you go make your character, I can do little penis, medium penis, long penis. I can make all sorts of puby business, you know. I can do vagina adjustments if I want to have a vajay instead of a pene, right? If I want to make his teeth silver, I can do it. If I want him to be a weird color, and he'll sit there and do this while he make his teeth different colors.
Yeah, they look like they're just rotten teeth. I don't think they did a particularly good job of the teeth thing.
But that's my whole point. Other than the bug that went around, I think this has been hot fixed, but there was a bug floating around where your wiener would pop out of your clothes a lot. Just out of the polygons. It's a feature.
Yeah, it's a bug. People, oddly enough, try to use that defense in real life too. Sorry, just a bug. Just popped out. Right.
Can't explain
it.
it. Wait for the patch.
Yeah.
Wait
for my jeans patch.
So when that stuff was happening, I get some joy out of that because it's funny. But when I'm watching this while I'm in the character creator and I'm like, oh, we're going here, are we? I thought that meant that I would eventually kind of see my dude other than in the mirror occasionally, you know? Like,
did you stream it?
No, I didn't stream any of that.
I streamed my character creation. Oh boy. I forgot all about that. I didn't even remember. I was like, oh crap, there's penises. And then the chat room was like, no, it's cool, man. Twitch allows it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no, I thought I was going to, I mean, I guess I don't understand the rules on that stuff. Certain games are going to do certain things, but yeah,
artistic expression, blah blah blah.
I guess so.
Is the clause,
and it's fine. I don't care. That's fine. Let me be as customized as you want it, because I know in those old games, you could make a weapon out of your dong. Like you could give yourself 15 eyeballs in your head. You know, like there's stuff you can do in the Cyberpunk universe that just gives you
in the pen and paper RPG. If you buy, because a lot of it is based on catalogs, like that are add-ons to the pen and paper RPG.
Yeah.
Where you can buy upgraded, there's like Mr. Love or something. There's like upgradable cybernetic penises that you can get yourself that provide you bonuses to your social stat or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or your cool stat.
Yeah.
Like it's actually a game mechanic to upgrade your penis, because part of the idea of Cyberpunk is that you're not just a badass warrior, you live on the edge, and that's also of culture. Right. So it's an important aspect of the game that you culturize yourself essentially. So that's to me why it's in there, because it's actually the pen and paper game too.
Well,
I also will add to that, Scott, because they were asked about why first person, not third person, or at least having the option to switch between both.
Yeah.
And they have answered it, and I
see the title.
I'm with you, but I get it what they're saying, which is in first person you get a better sense of how big the city is, how much it looms over you, the scale, your place in it. You're down in the nitty gritty. You lose some of that when you go third person. That's what they said.
Yeah.
And I will agree with that, because I'll tell you, playing this game, I've played Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
At no point when I was playing Grand Theft Auto 5, well, before they added first person to it.
Yeah.
At no point when I was playing that game did I ever really feel like I was in the thick of it and going like, oh, this seems like a bad part of town. Like, oh my gosh, this place, look at this place. I was never really invested in the world, the city I was in. There were times where I'd be like, oh, it looks pretty. But I was never invested in the city itself like I was in Cyberpunk just by being in first person. It makes it loom larger. It makes your place in it feel more insignificant, less like, oh, I'm a mighty character walking through it, and more just like, I'm just another dude on the street.
I tend to agree. I don't have a problem with that. Like, first person is fine for me, but they put so much emphasis on customization, and then in the game itself, you're constantly getting new outfits. You're encouraged to go find them, get them for quest rewards, change your guy in the closet, and then come out and look all cool in your new duds or whatever. But then you never see it. Like, you just never see it. And the way that other games deal with this, I mean, the weapon changes. So if you get a new weapon, that's cool. You get to see that. But it's a little like, Overwatch occasionally will give you a view of yourself. Destiny 2 will occasionally give you views of yourselves because you can wield a melee weapon, or you can, pop out and do a special, and you're now in third person. So you're like, oh yeah, that's right. My hunter's a badass and I'm looking at him right now. It feels like this game went overboard in customization features, right down to the penis length, and then there's no point to it.
So here's the thing. I think you're right. There's a lot of customization features. It's an important mechanic from the pen and paper RPG. I think it has a super important place in the game, but I get why you would have that impression.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see yourself in the menu screen. There's a photo mode, which isn't bad. And when you're riding a vehicle, you'll see yourself, and you can look at yourself in the mirror and still get that vibe. But the real reason the first person works is the one-on-one NPC interactions. What John said is also correct, but there are moments in the game where you have this very intimate closeness with the NPCs and what's happening to them that really affected me. I'm in kissing range. Like, we even at BlizzCon, we all hang out on the couch and we sat next to each other in that, mostly empty bar scenario. We were close, and there's this closeness you have from sitting together with people. And I get that feeling. There's even a moment early on where you're at Lizzie's with Jackie, and he's just chatting with you, and you guys are leaning next to each other, and he's just right in my face. Like, I don't know, it does something. It's part of it. I get what you're saying. I just think it's probably trying to serve too many masters, but at the same time, I think if you make it to the title card, you'll be like, "Oh, I like that this is in first person."
Yeah,
I'm 100% with you too, Scott. Like, it is weird, but also I think it's okay to have a first person game and still have customization in there, because it's also weird if they go, well, it's not important because you're not going to see it, and then you're putting on all these unique outfits that never get reflected on your dude. And if they had done that, I guarantee you we'd be sitting here going, isn't it weird that you put on all these outfits and it doesn't even show up on your dude? Like, it's one of those things that's kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't, because it doesn't make a great deal of sense in a first person game where you never get to see it.
Yeah.
But if your character just looked like they were in a jacket and jeans everywhere they went, and then you're putting on like hot pants, and it's like, nope, you're just in a jacket and jeans, you'd be like, I want to see those hot pants. What's going on?
Yeah. Or I'm just going to run around with my wiener out. Like, what I mean is, like, again, I think the first person shooter thing has its place, and it certainly does here. And I also think it is more immersive in the world to be in that view. So you're not wrong about any of that. I think that the big hang up for me is we now live in a world where cosmetics seem to mean the world to everybody, and they're in everything, and they really matter to the business of gaming. Players clearly want them. And in this game, they're there to get. Like, go get them. But you can't see any of them. But go get them.
Yeah.
And so to me, like Deus Ex, those Deus Ex games are very similar in terms of, I want to build out my hacker guy and do all the stuff in Deus Ex, and that's great. But you never, that game doesn't have like outfits. It just has augments. And so you don't think about it. You're just like, well, okay, it's perfect little first person espionage, freaking spy hacker stealth thing. And I don't ever need to see that dude because he's not wearing anything more than he was when I first saw him. So it's like not a part of the game. I don't know.
You actually see him all the time in Deus. I was just going to say the same thing. In Deus Ex, you see him all the time when you're crouching and stealthing and up against walls.
Oh, that's true because he runs up to a box. And
they should have taken a page from that. They could have done something because you do a lot of stealthing and crouching in this one. Maybe that tech didn't make it in or something.
And that's all.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of tech maybe didn't make it in.
If I had one other complaint. And again, it's not a deal breaker. And I said earlier in the show, I think this game is poised to be a big thing we all think about for years and years and years. I'm not decrying it on that level yet. But my other big complaint is the world, the feel of that world and that world building. I expected something different than I got. And I might be okay with what we got. But what I expected was something that felt more like Deus Ex, more like Syndicate, more like Blade Runner for that matter. Maybe even more like The Expanse, just like the level of world building that we're getting here is just a lot of, hey, man, you want to F them up? Yeah, bro. Like, it's just a lot of stuff that doesn't seem like they're writing to the cyberpunk aesthetic of it. They're not writing to the dystopic sensibilities that at least I have for the material. And I love this stuff as a genre. I love it. So I'm not getting
It's a different kind of dystopia.
Yeah.
But
I was...
Sorry, having read the pen and paper, like I'm not surprised you have that impression because that completely is the impression I would have had I not read the book, the RPG book. Right. Like now that I was familiar with the game, I was like, oh, this is all about being as crass and it's America gone wild essentially is what this is. But yeah, I definitely can understand why you feel that way.
And it's fine to take the pen and paper book and go like, well, we're going to adhere to it, but you also have to take the downside of that, which is there's going to be a lot of people that look at that and go, ugh, I don't like that at all. Like, I would say one of my biggest problems with the game right now is that when this game is trying to be funny and when this game is trying to be cool, it comes across extremely edgelord lame in a way that's even almost worse than Borderlands at times.
That's what I'm saying.
And I just go, ugh, it's so bad. Yeah. But when this game is trying to be earnest, like there's a moment post the title card where your character is dealing with the ramifications of like what you've been through in what is the prologue, that I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. This is on par with some of the best stuff I've seen in video games. You don't see this in a protagonist in a video game. And eventually that even gets rectified with kind of like a sort of a pep talk sort of situation shortly after. And that got me hyped up. And I was like, man, when this game is going for it and is being earnest and not trying to be effing cool, like this game is really hitting it on the narrative front. But then you run into something and, you immediately get pushed back out of it again. And it might be accurate to the pen and paper, but that doesn't change the feeling. I don't go, well, I hate this, but at least it's like the pen and paper game.
I think it's intended that you're supposed to hate the world, though. Like, I feel like they're not trying to do it to be cool or appealing. I feel like they're doing it to say, like, we've devalued life so much and that this is how we interact with each other on this scale with mass communication. But that there's this stark contrast between the seriousness and the humanity of what's going on versus the cheapness of life that the world presents. Like, I think this game is not designed for you to be like, yeah, I love being in this world. It's great. It's like, it's a cyberpunk future. Cyberpunk futures are all cautionary.
No, see, tales. I'm not, but that's the thing. I'm not. To me, it's like Mad Max. The Mad Max world is my favorite kind of dystopic future, and it isn't because I want to live there. It's because everything's broken down and turned to crap, which means you can build some pretty heroic characters within that space because they can, the whole point is to rise above it, become the Furiosa you want to be, right? But I love that about Cyberpunk. I love that about Blade Runner and associated stuff like that. Certain comics I read, I want it to be gritty, dirty, and terrible. That's what I want. What I'm getting instead, like John said, it's a little edgelordy guys that are, it feels like I'm dealing with, like, I don't know, like kids in high school or something, where they're just like, hey man, you see the butt on her? Yeah, dude. Like, it's just, I don't know.
I know, but like it's also you're horrified by it, right? Like whereas
Not
the other
the same
world, you're
way.
like,
It's
oh,
different.
I'm seduced. This is romantic. There's a romanticism. This one's not
But
giving you romanticism.
It's different than that, though. It's not. I don't see
There's-
that. I don't see that and go.
Right.
I don't see those, those kind of interactions and go, how abhorrent that society would have gotten this way. I look at it and go, that's bad writing. Like the writing is bad.
There's a difference between, and at the end of the day, whether it was their intention or not, like it doesn't, like, again, it can be accurate to the source material and it can be even accurate to their intention. If the net result is me going, well, I would like to turn this game off, that's not good. That should be avoided. And there are moments where this game walks that line correctly, and then there are other moments where you just hear NPCs and they're like, this is a big burrito. Yeah, it is a big burrito. You know what else is big? My dick. And you're just like, Jesus, like, okay, this is where we are, and this is what we're doing with our time.
Yeah,
I don't want to take away anything because you're all entitled to that. I'm just going to do the art student argumentation with this game because I really feel it merits it. That not everything created is meant to please you. Like the fact that we buy video games and movies with the intention that we'll like them is not the intention necessarily of everything that's created. And I realize that the entertainment industry is behind it, so you have this expectation that it's supposed to be that. But I think what they've done audaciously is make a world that you're supposed to feel uncomfortable in and not want to play in. Like I really get that vibe from the game.
That's horseshit because like I play a game like The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And The Last of Us is one of the most like oppressive. You have to stretch to find something positive in that world. Like it's like, well, today it looked nice outside. I guess that's the good positive vibe. I'm going to hold on to this bit of business. Like that's the only good thing that happened today was the graphics were pretty in this game. But I still loved the moment because it was oppressive and it was depressing and it made me sad and it made me feel awful at times. But at no point did I go, oh boy, I want to turn this off because it's just being so bad. There is a difference between creating a world that you're interpreting correctly as awful and a difference between you have now broken me out of the world and I'm going, this is just stupid.
It's just discount writing. I think I agree with that because I don't mind oppressive and I also don't mind worlds that make me uncomfortable and make me question things. I like that actually. I like that challenge. That's why I love Fargo. I can't stop talking about Fargo as I'm rewatching all of it. But the point of that is to be disconcerting and inconsistent, and on the one hand it's like, oh, this nice cop with his nice little family and now everything's upended because someone got shot in the head in the grocery store. Like it's this moment of disconnect and cognitive dissonance. I love that stuff. I don't think that's what I'm seeing so far. I mean, I'm not that far in, but what I'm seeing so far is dick jokes. Yeah. It's just dick jokes. Like another dildo on the ground. Check it out and get a dildo on the ground. The dildo.
The game is lousy with fleshlights. They're all over the place. Like you haven't seen anything yet. Like the game is saturated with that kind of stuff that you guys hate. I feel like it's done with intention. And the reason I feel that way is because, honestly, John, the writing is really good. And there are some of the most incredible narrative experiences I've had in a long time. So I know they're doing it on purpose. Like I just in my gut, I just know that there's an intentional dissonance between the fact that we are human and that we have feelings and care about one another, and that there's this mass market cheeseball, stupid, like lowest common denominator, instant immediate gratification world that they're a part of, full of everyone is an a-hole in this game, like to the max. I wanted to play kind of pacifist, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not playing pacifist. And like, I don't know that I want to get into details here just for spoiler reasons, but I did tell you guys about, the pedophile quest that I was on and just what that experience did to me. And like, so they're not just talking about like, oh, there's brain dances with all kinds of edgy shit in it. It's like they also look at the people making it and how humble and just whatever they are. And well, what I did to them was, also made me kind of traumatized. So I'm like, I think it's intended to make you feel that way. I guess in the long run we'll see, but yeah.
I agree with you that some of the writing in there is phenomenal. Like I said, some of the stuff I was shocked. Like there's things that happen in the act break and going into act 2 and all of that I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But when it comes to the satire of consumer culture and our need for instant gratification and being edgy, Grand Theft Auto does it better. Saints Row's done it better. Like those games managed to hold me through it. This game actively pushed me away with it. And I can't easily identify where they go wrong with it versus when they're doing it right. It's a little hard for that nuance. I look at a game like Saints Row and I go, I should hate this game, and I love it in spite of itself. Same thing with Grand Theft Auto, although that more often falls on a miss than it does for a hit. But this game, when it's on for me, it's a 10. When it's off for me, it's a 1. Like it's stark contrast when it's firing on those cylinders. And I'll say, in my experience that I've had in the game and the hours that I've played, it hits more than it misses. It was not that way in the early game, but I think by about the time that you're really ramping up into the end of the prologue, I was like, okay, tonally now, I really like what this game is. So I got over it, but in the early parts of it, I struggled with it a lot.
Yeah, I think that's why and that's good to hear, because I want to get to those bits and I want to see those bits. But also my brain, back to my whole point of why I didn't play it very much, does this thing when new games come out sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. Like I've been pretty consistent with Valhalla since it came out. I'm not rushing through it by any stretch, but I'm not falling off of it. But a lot of times what happens with a new game is I do fall off of it. Like a game I know I'm going to get back to is Watch Dogs Legion. I know I am, but I'm just not right there right now. And if anything, I've had a couple of times when I was playing Cyberpunk in those 2-3 hours where I went, I could just be over there doing the hacky shit over there. You know, like
I thought about that too, because I wanted to do the hacking and I was like, man, I wish the hacking in this game worked like it did in Watch Dogs.
Yeah, which is
I thought a lot about Watch Dogs playing this game.
And you know what else I did? I installed Deus Ex Human Revolution, the second one. Is that the title?
No, Mankind Divided.
Mankind Divided. One. I like the sequel
They're
a lot.
Good games.
They are great games. I love those games. And I wasn't getting some of that tonal experience from this. Again, you know, Bo makes a good argument. They're not trying for that same story. I get it. But my intention or my expectations were thwarted in such a way that I'm like, well, I could be getting that itch scratched over there. So I kept having all this back and forth. And instead I played Valhalla a ton, and I really like Ragnarok, or not Ragnarok. Where's the gods live? Where does Odin live?
Where Valhalla?
Valhalla.
Asgard?
Valhalla. Asgard, thank you. There's a whole big old sequence in Asgard that I'm really digging on. Really having fun over there, meeting Loki and hanging out with those guys, and I like all those interpretations. They're very cool. So anyway, that's going on, and then I thought, well, I'll play a bunch of that and I'll come back. But instead, I played WoW, so I played a ton of WoW, and then I was like, well, what else am I thinking here? And then I sat on my couch and went, I could play Cyberpunk, or I'm pretty far in Gears Tactics now, and that game's really rewarding, and I'm going to keep playing that. I got in the mood for some turn-based stuff, so I played that. And I'm like, oh, I'll play Cyberpunk later, and then instead, I played a lot of Destiny 2, like a lot. And that's a game where you're in first person and barely see yourself either, and relies a lot on loot. But that game has gotten places, and I know everyone's going to say, oh, 2's always been good. You guys just didn't know.
I installed it today.
Oh, you did?
I haven't played it yet, but I installed it today.
You're going to like it, because the update is silky smooth, 60 frames or better. Just beautiful, that update. It's real nice.
Some 3-player.
Yeah, why not? Well, I'm playing on Series X. I don't know if I can. I guess I can play. No, it's on Game Pass. I wonder if it does
crossplay.
Yeah,
but it is Game Pass, so yeah. And I think they communicate with each other. I think we can all play it.
Oh well, shit.
I only own Shadowkeep though. I haven't bought the new one.
Yeah,
so,
but if you have
get
Game Pass,
all of it on Game Pass.
Yeah, if you have Game
but
Pass,
you're not doing Game Pass right now, are you?
I think my sub elapsed. But I mean, if we organize a time over the Christmas holidays to play, I'll try and. So Steam owes me $100. Because to buy Cyberpunk, I bought a gift card because I don't do credit cards.
Yeah,
and it was missing letters on the thing. And I went to Walmart and said, "Hey, can I get a refund?" They're like, "Sorry, call the thing." So I have yet to contact them. They owe me $100. So I don't know what I bought Cyberpunk otherwise because I wasn't waiting, and so I have $100 in waiting on Steam. So I'll. I guess I'll buy Destiny a third time.
Well, you can't if you end up buying all the Destiny stuff.
God damn you guys!
If you buy the extra Destiny stuff on Steam, that's all crossplay now, so we could play no matter what. I think no matter where we are. But if you did,
I think as long as it's the same platform. Chat's saying no crossplay, but I think if we're all playing the PC version of the game, I think we should be fine. Right,
and cross saving is happening. That part is happening. So saves are being, because you're logging into a Bungie account, your saves
you
are
can't be on your Xbox playing with PC, but if we're all playing on PC, I think we can. And I think we might even be able to play as the characters we've saved, but I can't speak to that.
Yeah, that's it's like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my understanding. So on Game Pass, 100% that's true. But also I think that's true in general. The cross-save thing's working like on Stadia, back over to PC, back over to consoles. You can move that save around so your character progression is there. And so in our case, if we played PC, I'm pretty sure that if we played Game Pass and Bo just had it on Steam, we still can play because we're on that platform. We're playing on that platform and we're using, the Bungie connectivity, and we'll just all be talking on Discord. So we could totally do that. And then you and I would retain whatever progress we make on console. So yeah, that'd be awesome. But I'm really digging it. Like, it's freaking good. It's good, man. Like, it's all there. The thing about the Game Pass thing is you don't have to pay a dime. Like that old John thing about $60 every time you want to play it doesn't hold anymore. Like finally, you don't have to think about that. So
they ruined my Destiny joke, but I'm happy they did.
Yeah, you'll be. It's like you're the Sammy Hagar of gaming, dude. Sammy Hagar could never. Once 55 got all the speed limits went past 55. Hagar's like, well, shit. Now I can drive. I can drive 80 in some parts of the country, right? So anyway, it's a weird thing to say, but I'll say it anyway. So that's what the games I played. I played all those games when I should have been playing Cyberpunk, and I just could never, for whatever reason, motivate myself. And there it sits, and I'll play it though. I'll get there. We've talked a ton about it. Real quick, Shadowlands. John played a bunch more.
No, I want to talk about Cyberpunk.
Oh, tell me more.
I don't feel like I've gotten to talk about Cyberpunk.
Oh, do it then. Do it. Give it
and
to us.
I'm gonna, because Bo's gonna refute it, and I want to give him a chance to do it.
Okay.
I don't think I like Cyberpunk very much.
Oh, wow.
I think Cyberpunk is an okay game right now. And I got it working on my PC. I'm still running into some weird bugs. I tried to park my car in Lizzie's parking lot. That's the name of a bar. Yeah. It's not a euphemism. And as soon as I pulled into the parking lot with my car, the frame rate dropped to almost 0. I reloaded. Everything was fine. But now whenever I get in a car, the frame rate bottoms out on that game from that moment on. And I was having no car issues up to that point. Now cars are basically broken in that video game for me. That's unfortunate. That's but the biggest problem I have, we already talked about tone. That was one of the big problems I had with the game initially. From a story perspective, I think the story is pretty good. Although I would argue there's a point in the game where you get a montage of you doing stuff throughout Night City, and that montage looks more fun than the stuff I've done since the montage. There's some cool stuff in there, but I watched that montage. I was like, man, I wish I could have done some of that stuff, because some of the shit that I'm doing instead is not as fun as some of that stuff looked, and I could have maybe used a little more of that. But generally speaking, the story's pretty good. It is going to be a game for me that is one of the biggest. I wish I knew then what I know now. And I think I'm going to have, maybe after they do a big patch or something like that, I think I'm going to have a really good, fun playthrough on Cyberpunk. Because I think there is a lot to like there. But the big problem is I'm not super happy with how I've built my character, and there's not a lot of options to fix that. I'm used to certain RPG systems where it's like, okay, well, you want a stat that you're really great at, but you don't want to be bad at the other stats. And no, this is a game where you're definitely better focusing in an area rather than trying to be kind of a jack of all trades sort of character. You're not going to have as good of a time trying to do that.
That reminds me of Deus Ex, that part, which I actually like. I like that I like that they force you into picking a line. And
I'm
going.
fine with that, but I had to learn it the hard way, and there's no easy way for me to fix it. So now I'm at like, okay, well, I either let this bug me throughout the rest of my playthrough, or I start over. And the answer for me will be start over, probably.
That's what you do. Yeah.
Background are you guys? Just quickly.
I was a corpo. I've done all 3, but I stuck with corpo.
I looked at all beginning. That's the other thing I spent a bunch of time doing. I watched and did all the intros until I got to where I was in the car with what's his name, Jackie. I like Jackie as a character, by the way. He's my favorite.
Jackie's great. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's great. But I did all 3 because I just wanted to see how those played out, and I really liked. I ended up really liking the one I would have chosen naturally anyway, which is the Nomad one. So I stuck with that. I like Nomad.
I think this game, and I posted this on our Discord and was vehemently disagreed with. So I know this is going to be a popular opinion. I think this game would have been better trying to be more like Deus Ex and less like Grand Theft Auto. I think they should have ditched the open world and had a more focused linear, not 100% linear, because I think walking around the city, there is something important and cool about that, but a more linear experience, because a lot of my issues are small things that are definitely tied to stuff that was clearly a decision made for the benefit of an open world experience. Like the first time you go see a Ripper Doc is one of the coolest moments in the game. I loved it. It was so cool. They did do some stuff to your hand. There's a whole thing with your eyeball. Like it's a really neat moment in the game. And I was like, man, I can't wait till I do another upgrade. And I went to a Ripper Doc again and I was like, oh, I'm going to get a metal shoulder. And I clicked it on a menu and it took the money out of my account and I had a metal shoulder and that was it. And I was like,
that's a huge disappointment.
Like, the hell is this? There's no sitting in a chair. Like it doesn't have, I don't have to see my shoulder getting opened and metal grafted to it, but at least something to try to immerse me in it rather than me standing at a window and just going, can you give me a metal shoulder? And the guy go, yes. And then you have one now.
Yeah.
I agree with that. That was disappointing for sure.
Yeah.
So I was super sad about that. And it's part of the reason why I feel like the early, like Act 1 going into Act 2 is so strong. And I'm worried about the later bits in the game because a lot of these systems, when they introduce them to you, it feels like it's been given a lot more attention than later when it starts to become redundant. And I think probably the biggest problem with the game right now overall is the bugs, but not in the way you think. Like bugs are fine, but what I have found with my experience in Cyberpunk 2077 isn't that it's being ruined by bugs I'm encountering. It's because the game is so buggy, I'm assuming everything is a bug. And it's ruining my play experience. So there's a mission very early on in Act 1 where you walk past the gun shop and the guy goes, V, I got your weapon for you. Come in here and I'll give it to you. And you get a quest to go get a gun that apparently this guy has. Yeah. And you go in and you talk to him. And the way this game expects you to get that is to talk to him, open the store inventory, see that there's a gun with an icon on it that's different than all the others, and know that that's the quest gun, and mouse over it and see that it costs $0 and buy it. Yeah. And that's how you get a quest complete. That's not like most games out there. That's very different. I'm not saying wrong necessarily, but it's different. Because that's so odd and so different from what I expected. When I went and talked to the guy to get my gun and I didn't see a give me my gun option, I went, well, that's weird. Why isn't that there? So I tried talking to him being like, how's business? And he's like, it's business. And I was like, okay, he didn't offer me a gun. Let me see your inventory. So that popped up. I was like, okay, it's a store. So I quit and walked away and it says, no, go get your gun from him. I was like, I tried. It's not there. So I go and talk to him again. In a world where this game isn't buggy, I would have probably gone, okay, there's something I'm missing and paid better attention to it. But because I'm aware that there's been so many issues with this game, instead I went, well, it's broken. The game's broken and this quest can't be completed. And I started to walk away, and then it bugged me, and I went back, and I was like, what am I missing? And I got frustrated with the game instead of just, dealing with it. And I had a similar experience later. There is a chase where you are being attacked by assassins in a car, and they give you a gun to deal with the issue. And I'm like, sweet, this is cool. Start shooting. The gun doesn't seem to be doing jack shit. I'm just like sitting here, and
is that where the top of the car is off the car?
It's where you're missing the top of the car.
All of your gripes I am 100% in agreement with for the most part. The tone thing is the only thing we disagree on. This game, that feeling of you don't know what's a bug, like 100%, like it's buggy as shit. Like I've had quest completion things fall through the floor of the game or just not appear and have to reload saves. And if you forgot to reload a save for a while, it's like, oh god. And sometimes it reloads and it falls through the floor, and I'm like,
and so there's things like that too. I mean, I was it was a very serious brain dance scene, and there's a big friggin' inventory advertisement for some stupidly named alcohol that got locked on my screen that I couldn't close. And so it's going through these dramatic moments, and here's like Schwager Bros alcohol sitting just on my screen through the entire thing. And I was like, well, this is dumb. Those are legitimate bugs. They're going to happen. But like unloading on these assassins, I'm like, the gun's broken. And what they're trying to convey to you is that these are badass assassins, and they're like Terminators and stuff like that. And these things are not to be messed with. But they didn't record any dialogue of like, it's impossible to kill these guys, or, anything like that. And so I'm just sitting there thinking, well, this game's busted. It's the pistol isn't working. And it took what would have been a very cool moment in that game and instead made it a moment where I was worrying about my gameplay settings. And when we get to a place where that's no longer the case, I think I can have a lot of fun with this game. But right now, I'm spending so much time worrying about that. Also, it removes my key binding for toggle crouch every time I get into the game. So I get in and I'm like, okay, time to stealth. And I hit crouch and my character just goes bloop, bloop. And I go, no, I had it set to hit control to toggle. Damn it. And I have to reset it every time I play the game. And it just, every step of the way, I get pulled out of the immersion. And this is a game about immersion.
Another tip while you're on the C thing, because John, Director of Opinions, is going hard here. But the C button is crouched, like the stay crouched. But if you start a dialogue and you happen to be looking at their crotch and you're like, oh, let me uncrouch, you get to face level so I can see them. C is also skip ahead. So I try to uncrouch and I start skipping dialogue. I'm like, so I had to remap it to tilde. I don't know who thought of that, but the key mapper guy needs a pay cut, I think.
He needs to be talked to.
That's the other thing. The key mapper, when they do it, they're allowed to use the same key for a bunch of shit. When you do it, you're no longer allowed to do it. So for me, I thought, well, I think pressing C to crouch is stupid as shit. I'm going to make it the left control, which is universally what I'm used to being the crouch button. And as soon as I did that, it says, yeah, you unbound a lot of stuff because it was a duplicate. I was like, what?
Yeah.
But that's how you had it bound. Why can't I bind it that way? Why is it okay for you, but not for me?
I'll tell you this, though. Here's a little advice for everybody. Make sure your NVIDIA stuff is running in the background for your like last 30 seconds or last minute of gameplay capture stuff, because I had it off when I was playing at first. I wish I could have captured this bug, but it's my favorite bug I've seen, and I saw it, and it was great. Here's what happened. I walked down into a little part of what was supposed to be a crowded area of the city where I had just finished talking to Jim Bob over there eating the noodles, okay, Jackie. And so ate noodles with Jackie on my way. I turn this corner. Nobody's there. Nobody. No humans. No bodies. Nobody. There's still sound of the hum of a city, like everything's going on. But all of those NPCs and extras are missing. There are no cars. There's nothing. It's just a big empty space. And so I started walking forward thinking, what is this part of the story? Is it in my head because I'm malfunctioning? You know, that whole thing you do before you get your first Ripper job done. So you're like trying to deal with all that. And I'm like, what is happening? And again, wasn't sure if it was the game or part of the game. And so while I'm walking out there, I decided to just turn around and see what's happening. And suddenly, like that scene in Lion King when all the wildebeest are chasing down Mufasa. 1 billion people are coming my direction, and they're all in T-pose. Like the animation T-pose.
I've had a few T-poses.
And they just are all just like hovering crosses of humans. Just, you want to talk dystopia. That's the most dystopic thing I've ever seen. And they just go zooming around me. Now the place is full of nonsense people in this pose. And some cars that are all just sort of jiggling like this.
No, it's definitely buggy as hell, because I want to say that's the bug that most frustrated me, is that the AI sometimes super jank. Like, I've had guys just stand there out in the open in the T-pose, and I headshot them, and I go, I guess that was satisfying. Or guys in the elevator yelling at the window and not pointing their gun outside. Yeah. And there's also the frustrating bug when you almost get detected, but you don't. One of the guys stays stuck and, I can hear you, what are you doing? But everyone else is casually like, oh, so, peaceful day, no one's sneaking up on me. But this one guy who can't detect you, he's also still, and you're still stealthed and didn't alert the enemy. But this guy's going, come on out, where are you? I can hear you moving. But he's totally, you know what I mean? And I'm just, it's really immersion breaking. The game is buggy as hell. If you're excited to play now. But if you want to wait for perfection, a proper experience, I think a wait is warranted for this guy. So
I will.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, because I'm wrapping up. I ranted on a lot of bad things, but I do want to say one thing that very pleasantly surprised me, beyond the stuff I've already talked about. The way they use Keanu Reeves, which may have been and seemed like the biggest publicity stunt of all time, is an awesome thing and very, very cool. And I'm all in on that. Even though I kind of predicted how it was going to work out, I think that bit of the game is super cool. Sometimes I feel bad at the things that he says to me, but
he's otherwise, basically. He's like, he shows up in your game at various parts, but he's actually like Keanu less. Like, even though he's playing a role, I'm just like, he just say something really shitty to me, and I'll be like, is that the Keanu I know? He play hero. Who is this man? Yeah. He looked like Keanu. Like, I never say, oh, it's Johnny Silverhand. I'm like, oh, there's Keanu. What does he have to say? The fact that it's him is his voice acting is pretty great. And I mean, he's a handsome lad, but it's just immersion breaking to see a movie star in a game of otherwise non-movie stars. So it's just weird.
It is immersion breaking. I will 100% agree with that, because you're right. I don't think I've called him Johnny Silverhand once. The closest I got was I almost just called Jackie Johnny at one point. But it's 100% Keanu in the game, and so often I'm like, he wouldn't have said that. He's a nice guy. There's been a lot of those thoughts in there, and I think I like him more than I'm supposed to, simply because it is Keanu. But I think his story, his role, and his purpose is very good.
I would say it's good. This isn't a criticism. It's definitely worth doing. It's jarring in some ways, in the ways we talked about. But I love it. I'm happy with it.
Well, we will see how things pan out for that game. I think it'll probably be okay in the long run. Like I say, we tend to be really harsh when this stuff happens in the moment, but as time passes, it'll either be a classic, or it may end up being the systems and the gameplay are kind of poop, but the story's amazing and it's worth playing, or not
sets
poop,
us up for a good sequel,
Yeah. Or great DLC. That's the other thing about The Witcher 3. Part of the reason I think that thing achieved the kind of perfection it did is that universally beloved DLC, which you don't always hear about games. So their follow-ups are strong. There's also there's hints that they've dropped hints before, but I think it's not that unlikely that there will end up being some sort of multiplayer mode in this game, akin to freaking Grand Theft Auto Online, which is an enormous open world game success and continues to just rake money in for that company. There's parts of this game that seem tailor-made for that to me. So, I think the idea
seems ready to handle multiple people running around there at the same time. I can't imagine that going bad at all.
That would have to come, I think, much later. But I could see it happening. So there's potential in the future, but whatever. The hype meter couldn't have been higher. I think even if this thing shipped perfectly, there that hype meter was way off the charts.
With all the money they've made, and they better just improve it. You know what I mean? they would make such a massive mistake not applying updates to bring it to perfection now that it's launched.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
I have a high expectation that a lot of this stuff's going to get ironed out.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they have to. Like I say that, and where's that HP EA game? What was it called that we played?
Anthem.
Anthem.
Like Anthem, we keep hearing, it's getting redone. Like that feels like the opposite of what usually happens, which is a big company has to make good on this, or else they're going to ruin their reputation. But that game, I don't know. Maybe that one's the exception.
It's on the pedigree. It's on CDP. They have to make that game good.
Yeah.
They have so few games, and they trade off of one IP. They have to make this IP win. They have to do it.
I agree, because whatever Witcher 4 is eventually in
it's
some
just like
future.
we'll make FIFA. Who cares? Who cares about Anthem?
Yeah, it's like FIFA.
I don't know. No, they'll make FIFA. Like, Anthem failed, whatever. Get the FIFA.
No, that's a good
rolling.
point, because the FIFA money is continuous and never ending. You're right.
People are still going to give EA money, but CDPR is like, this is their one game after a while, and their second franchise. Like, they have to fix it. Like, they can't not fix it.
I played a little. I forgot to mention, I played some FIFA with my son-in-law, and he handed my ass to me. He's really good. Yeah. Really good. There's a whole generation of soccer fans who grew up with FIFA and can kill you, just destroy you. So watch out for that generation. Okay, it's time for us to play a quick mashup. Been holding on to this for a couple of weeks because we wanted to get Bo back before we played it. So here it is. It's called Satterblast, and don't remember what that was about, but we'll find out now together.
I do you? And I'm glad we waited for Bo.
Oh, good. Well, here it is. Enjoy.
Oh, shit on me. Shit on me. Shit on me. Just walk over here, take a big, wet, dirty, nasty, runny, rancid, smelly shit on me.
Yeah, then you can do your show.
The badly named show that I've always dreamed of, Satterblast.
Oh.
It's a mashup of the word Saturday with the word blast, and it's a blast for your ears.
Oh, hero, it's going to be great to freaking rub our boobs together, or whatever she says. Shut up, dick.
I originally envisioned it as another episode of Morning Stream on Saturdays as the Satterblast.
Was that? It sounds
but
like
I test marketed the name with my friends, and they laughed and said it was the worst name they ever heard.
It's not. It's a name akin to Mountain Dew.
a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you didn't play that Star Wars, what was it called? Legends of the Guy, Redhead.
Yep.
Legends
Star
of the
Wars.
What is
Star
it?
Wars.
Stop. Legend of the Redhead.
Jedi Fallen Order. I remembered it.
Redhead Fallen Order. Got it.
We're gonna blast your ears off with so many awesome things, but first, over to John the intern. John,
intern.
reporting from the Dildo
What
Factory.
do you
How's it
got?
going?
Yeah, what do you got at the Dildo Factory? What do you see?
Things are looking prickly at the Dildo Factory today, but people are abuzz with excitement with the many new exciting products that they're about to receive.
Well, anyways, click. That was the worst reporting we've ever heard. But what can you do? It's John the intern.
Turns out there's plenty to mine when your show's about politics, blood, and masturbation.
Anyways, off to the weather
Yeah,
with
see?
Scott the Weather Blaster.
Today's hot with a chance of dildo. All right. I think I have a crush on the main DedSec lady. I don't know why. Something about her voice.
Oh yeah,
She's cool. Bo, I have a crush on a JPEG is what I'm saying. JPEG crush.
No, it's a 3D game. No JPEGs here.
Okay. It's a texture map. I have a texture map fetish. No, that sounds bad too. All right, moving on. Yeah, it'd be great. Here's Patrick's advice for us today. Check it out right here.
I didn't hear
Did it happen already?
Oh, you guys didn't hear it?
hear it. No.
Yeah, has it happened?
Here, I'll play it again. Hold on.
Il y a plein de jeux auxquels j'ai hyper envie de jouer le jour de la sortie de la maledite salle de je l'ai ou je n'y vendrai et je l'ai je n'en ai pas.
What the hell?
It starts fine and then he summons the devil.
Good times.
Yeah,
More
good.
innocent times.
Glad we hung on to that. That's awesome.
We were young and innocent back then.
Well done, Jamie. Thank you for doing that, Jamie. TMS Mashups on Twitter. Everyone go out and poke him and tell him how rad he is because he does great work here. Okay, one final thing today.
That's a good question.
We got an email from Tome Fury. He sent it to talktothecore@gmail.com, which, by the way, has been popping off lately. You guys are rad. Just lots of great feedback. The show numbers are up. Everything's up. Like, I don't know what's going on with Core, but Core's growing. It's a growing concern, which is great. All right? Like they used to say back in the days, if you had you made soap, you had a soap concern. I love that term. Isn't that great? It's not instead of a company. It's like a concern. Oh, yes, we go down to the shipping concern and talk to those guys. I love it. Anyway,
Yeah, like the dildo concern.
Yeah, the dildo concern.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Right.
what they
Sean
should.
went to the dildo concern a few weeks ago.
Exactly.
I did. There were many things that upset me.
I'm very concerned. All right, here it is. Tome Fury wrote in, says, "Hey guys, just wanted to bring your attention to a little known secret in the Xbox ecosystem. Bing rewards." And Bo's talked about this before too a little bit, but not a ton. He says you can actually get free Xbox Gold time just by doing Bing rewards every day. Xbox Ultimate, meaning Game Pass Ultimate is what he means, used to be on there, but they just took it off, unsmiley face. I just take 5 minutes every morning to knock out the daily Bing search requirements, and then after a month or two, you can use those rewards to get a free month of Xbox Gold. If you have a budget for a video game, if you have a budget for video games, this is very handy. I hope this helps. Thanks for all you do. Tome Fury. Yeah, you used to do this a bit, right? You'd go in there.
Well, I started it, but then I had to use Bing.
I'm really good at knocking out my daily Bing search results. It's a skill.
I gotta say, Tome Fury, love you, guy or girl or man or woman or whatever you want to identify as. But Bing rewards. I just the more I hear it, the more I hate the two words put together. A Bing reward,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the whole problem. I think they just need to rebrand this whole Bing deal. I just think Bing is bad.
Bing is bad.
Like, it's the name. Like, it's just I can't take it seriously. I think of Chandler Bing. I'm like,
yeah.
I just
that
think
guy
of
in Groundhog Day that's always going Bing.
That's annoying too. But I mean, Google's an annoying word too. You just think of it differently now, right? Like Google's a weird word.
No, well, I mean, like semantics wise, Bing hits differently, at least in my brain, than Google does. Even yes, I know I'm biased towards Google, but DuckDuckGo's pretty stupid name, but it's fine. I'm going to search something on DuckDuckGo. No one's saying I'm going to DuckDuckGo something.
That's true.
But Bing seems designed to use it's trying to get that verb thing. You got to pick a better word. This is just not a sexy word at all. I don't feel cool. I'm not going to go to my employment area and go like, "Hey guys, I just binged the latest reports," and it sounds bad and unprofessional and uncool, and everything about it is bad.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
I have opinions.
I wish they would have used. So Ping is a brand of like popular golf stuff, like golf clubs and things. But Ping would have been a better name than Bing if they'd have gotten Ping.com.
It's also a duck that's usually running late.
What, a Ping?
A Ping.
Is
there's an old kid's book, Ping the Duck.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. Let me look that up. Ping the Duck.
It'd be so funny if John trolled you and it was porn. It's Ping the Duck.
Oh, there it is. It's called.
I got you to look at pornography.
It's called The Story About Ping. Wait. Hold on. Ping's
That's really it. There's nothing to this. I made it for the audience of people that know the children's book Ping the Duck.
Yeah, it's about Chinese ducks. A Chinese duck that's lost on the Yangtze River, based on the 2007 online poll. The book listed as one of its teachers' top 100 books for children of all time. Wow. All right.
Let me tell you though, nothing will make you prouder of your kid who's learning to read than having them accurately read Yangtze River.
Yeah, because
you're like, man, you're doing good.
Yeah.
They should give you an A for something.
Kids don't know how to really truly say it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely agree. If you're hard up for cash, you can use Bing and get your it's definitely a thing you can do. If you're already using it, if you're already invested in it, it's worth it. But if it's like me, you give up after a few days and go, God, I really just don't want to use this. And there's something about the videoification of everything, like social media, all that stuff, that I looked at it and went like, this thing's trying to manipulate my behavior. I don't really want to get on that treadmill. I'm actually proactively trying to get off as many of those treadmills with my computer use as possible right now.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So, yeah.
I was talking to Tom Merritt about this the other day. Tom Merritt says, I'm doing this like I do food. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, I'm starting to look at data for its mental health benefits. And I'm starting to be very picky about what I will put in there, just like I am picky about what I will put in my mouth, he says. And I said to him, well, Tom, what if you're already bad at putting things in your mouth? And then also, and he's like, well, yeah, I mean, you just have to think of it in that same way. Like, is it healthy for that organ to fill it with garbage, whatever that garbage is? Or or should you have a bit of a diet, or have a regimented menu, a budgeted requirement for your intake? And I don't know, there's something to it.
It's a post-social I'm a word. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but I was already kind of aware of it in some level. But there is something with my experience with Trailer Park Boys Greasy Money being the catalyst for all of this. Like, it's not benign. The things that you're using are not benign to your mental health, just like food is not benign to your mental health. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And also, speaking of Trailer Park Boys, they have a new season coming up where they're in jail the whole time. I'm pretty excited.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're all in jail.
Good.
Yeah, I'm actually excited about it. That premieres soon.
Is it the cartoon or is it the live one?
Back to live action. They're doing a live action thing. It just won't have Leahy in it, and because he died. Yeah. But yeah, they're in jail, and I guess Randy's in jail, and I don't know if
yeah. I think man, jail's effing awesome. That's why people so mad about jail. Jail's so cool. Like I love it there. The guys in there are great, and there's plenty of smokes and weed. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, you're channeling Ricky here. This is perfect. So I'm stoked about them being in jail.
He's my spirit animal.
Canadian jail, to be clear. They were genuinely afraid of American jail.
I heard this on their podcast. They were just saying, hey, this whole next season is going to be really different. I'm thinking, what are they talking about? And they go, we're going to be in jail. And they just kind of dropped the whole thing. So I'm excited. But I'll miss Leahy because they used his voice in the animated stuff as like a way to keep him in there. And it was weird, but also kind of good, but kind of not. Weird, it's hard to explain. I kind of like the animated stuff. It was all right.
It was good. It was good. Yeah. Definitely, though, that what is it? The tapeworm episode really rough.
That was pretty rough. Yeah.
Just what they did with it, like it was just all rough. Like, and they keep it as a pet.
Yeah, that was the worst I've felt for Julian in a really long time. Like what he had to do to help that worm get out.
That was a hard one to watch.
Yeah,
but otherwise, it's pretty good.
Yeah, and you can only do that in animation. Like you'd never do a live action version of that scene, or they wouldn't.
No.
But yeah. Anyway, so there's that. Hey, thanks for your emails. talktothecore@gmail.com is what we're saying. That's the deal, Wade. I've been watching a lot of Fargo. It's a problem. I've seen the movie twice in the last month. I've watched season 2 twice in the last month. Once by myself, once with my wife. I watched 4 because it finished and loved it. I went back and watched 2. Now we're on 3. We'll go back to the movie again because she doesn't remember the movie. It's all Fargo all the time here.
Where's Fargo streaming? I need to watch this.
Hulu. It's all on there. And season 4 is done.
5 different stuff now.
It's on. It's if season 4 is finished, so you can just do it all, and it's just the greatest. Everything is so good. Gosh, dang it!
I love it. Okay? If you had to pick your favorite season, though, which one?
Oh, 2. And I say that with this isn't one of those things where it's like there's a huge gap at all. Like everything is top notch. I love it all, and I love that they jump around. But for whatever reason, 2 really speaks to me. Don't know what it is.
I'm 100% with you. Yeah. That's the one that's in the past, right?
Yeah, 78, 79, whatever it is.
One that's got the UFO in it.
Yeah, and Mike Milligan and freaking the Indian guy, Hansi.
I think Hulu for me is like geo-locked.
Oh, is it?
I don't think Hulu's available in Canada because Fargo's on Canada Netflix.
Oh.
And it's only up to season 3, so I'm pretty sure. I don't think I can do Hulu, actually.
4 will probably drop there soon, though, if that's the only way they're doing it. I wonder. Well, anyway.
I see chat room saying season 1 for the win, and I do understand that.
Season
1's very good. It's awesome.
Yeah, you're not going to get any argument. Anybody who says one of any of the 4 seasons is better than any of them, you're not going to get an argument from me because I think they're all the best television shows on the planet right now. I love Fargo like I can't even explain. Mad Max levels of love here. But
yeah, Fargo.
I like 3 a lot too. I just thought it dropped it a little bit with the ending.
Oh, I really like the ending of 3. But I love 3. I love this new one.
What's her name? It was surprising, but I didn't like it.
Loved 4. Loved 1. Like Malvo is one of the greatest villains ever made. Period. The Billy Bob Thornton guy. The fact that he shows up.
In 3.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What do you say?
No, you go ahead. I was just going to gush over whoever that guy. What's his name?
Oh, VM Varga. Varga's so good.
Yeah, who's like picking his teeth with like wires and shit. It was gross.
Yuri was so like, Yuri scared the hell out of me. Just how like apathetic he was about killing and beating people up.
Yeah, Yuri was a great side villain. Yeah. Dropped my phone. And, sorry.
Yeah. No, but anyways, so Billy Bob is super, like season 1 is incredible. Like it's all incredible.
Yeah, that's my whole point. Everything is it's top shelf. But there is something about 2, and I don't know what it is, that is my most compelling season. I love it so much. I love it, love it, love it. And it's also got the most connective tissue to other seasons. So like 2 has these ramifications across the universe in the Fargo-verse.
Well, it's very, very weird what happens to Hansi.
Oh, yeah.
Like, when you think about it and his role in the first one and all that goes down, like, that gets weird, but
it gets real weird.
Fine.
It's real
fine.
weird. And
it's also a show that has a UFO in it, and
Yeah.
it's just like really nonplussed about it.
Yeah.
So.
I love when they have that, like the fish in season 1, like Carrie Coon's character in 3, where she can't, none of the activators on the the water
and the
stuff.
Santa Hotel episode.
Oh, yeah,
that
dude.
thing is just eerie and unsettling in a really amazing way. The little hand that does the box thing, like that episode is so freaking weird. I love it.
It's so weird and good, and the cartoon and stuff. It's just great. And 4, I loved 4. Just finished. Go watch it, you guys. I know you're sick of me talking about it on TMS. I've been gushing. But I just think it's just the best stuff. And when I heard he's going to make that Alien show, all in, ready to go. I mean, it's a totally different thing, but I know what he does with characters, and that's what's going to matter. And then this alien thing, it's not going to be about a scary alien. I mean, it will be, but what it's really about are characters. And characterization is Noah Hawley's freaking fun bag. I'm so ready. Oh, my gosh. Yep. Hurry up. All right. Oh, and that, dude, freaking Jeffrey Donovan from Burn Notice in season 2. Oh my gosh, he was so good. He played Dodd Gerhardt, all the Gerhardts.
Oh my!
Bear
he was
Gerhardt.
so menacing but so funny at the same time. Once he gets tied up.
Oh my gosh, dude!
It just her freaking stabbing
crazy.
him out of nowhere. And, oh my gosh, that stuff was so.
When
funny.
I get out of this rope, I'm gonna make you bleed.
Make you bleed.
Dodd Gerhardt, one of the greatest characters ever written. I'm telling you, stop everything you're doing and watch freaking Fargo unless you live in Canada and you're screwed. Okay.
You keep her away from me. She's crazy.
That's the other thing is I find season 2 immensely quotable, and there are characters like Ted Danson's character is great. Like what? It's amazing. It's so good.
Yeah, they're all good. Like I know you can have a
television.
favorite one, but they're all really high bar stuff.
Like for me, take this, like it's the perfect thing to have out there along with Better Call Saul. There's so much good TV right now, but there's a certain kind of drama that just gets me under my skin, and this is one of them. It's just so good. All right. That's it for the show. Now that we've done a full commercial for Hulu and its products and properties. Anyway, very exciting stuff coming up. All right, we're done with the show. That's going to do it. Thank you all for being here. If you like what we do, for a good now 2 hours and 20 minutes plus an extra half hour for patrons, then head on over to patreon.com/core show. That's right, you get 30 minutes of bonus content today. There's a ton of it, and you don't get that any other way than if you join us over there. So do that, patreon.com/core show. We are at frogpants.com/core for everything else. You can find our email addresses, our Twitter accounts, all that stuff. We hope you're having a wonderful Christmas season, and you'll be back with us. Oh wait, next Thursday's Christmas Eve, isn't it? I don't think we're doing a show.
What do you guys want to do?
I mean, how are we going to do that? We can't do that.
We'll figure it out.
All right, we'll let you guys know.
Follow us on social media. It's our secret ploy to get you to follow us on Twitter.
There you go. Core Pod, John_Jagger. I'm at Scott Johnson and Bo Schwartz. That'll do it for us. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time, whenever that is. This show is part of the Frog Pants Network.
Frog Pants Network.
Get more shows like this at frogpants.com.